We are up on YouTube.
Thank you. Ms. Fay, I'm going to ask if Representative Collins is in the attendee room.
Not yet.
I feel like I need to move on before something else breaks down here. So
Yeah, we got a long day. We got a long day, so we
Yes,
probably should move to the next one.
I'm going to Representative Kinney. Is she with us? I just want to make sure she is.
I don't see Representative Kinney.
Senator,
Yes.
I have Representative Morris on 1250. He's in a committee, but he said he'd come right over any second we wanted him. So I can call him, just text him to come over if you want me to.
Okay, yes, and I apologize. The next two that we're going to be hearing from is a bill by Representative Corey and Representative Morris. You are correct. I jumped ahead here. Do we know that Representative Corey is with us?
He asked for me to give him a call, so I can do that right now.
Yes, we can begin with, I'm sorry, Representative Costain, if I misunderstood you. Is Representative Morris here?
He is. He's in the waiting room.
Okay, we'll bring him in. Thank you very much. And I will tell the general public, the two bills we'll be discussing or hearing from are 1179, that is from Representative Corey, who will be joining us. And that is an act to restrict Maine law enforcement participation in the federal firearm confiscation or buyback programs without legislative approval. And also 1250, that is Representative Morris, an act to allow law enforcement officers with Federal Law Enforcement Officers Safety Act clearance to carry a concealed weapon. So welcome, Representative Morris.
Thank you. Good morning. Yes. Thank you.
So you may present your bill, please. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much. Senator DeChambeau, Representative Warren, distinguished members of the Committee on Criminal Justice and Public Safety. I am Representative Joshua Morris, and I represent the people of Leeds, Livermore, and Turner. I'm here to present LD 1250, an act to allow law enforcement officers with a Federal Law Enforcement Safety Act clearance to carry a concealed weapon. The idea for this bill came from a conversation with a retired law enforcement officer who I believe is here to testify today. The idea intrigued me as a way to enhance public safety by allowing those that have a law enforcement background to carry a concealed weapon. As I understand it, the Leosa law passed in 2004 allows law enforcement and retired officers to carry concealed weapons with reciprocity throughout the United States. They are required to renew it annually and go through a rigorous training. Since submitting this bill, however, I have heard conflicting reports on some of the legal issues with this bill. I've heard it may conflict with the Federal Gun-Free Schools Act, but I've also have heard that there may be some allowances for this in other states. I would encourage the committee to further explore this issue if you would like to move forward with this bill. I thank you for the consideration of this bill and be happy to answer any questions you may have. And I can submit my written comments. I meant to have them out to you sooner.
Any questions of Representative Morris? Wow, I'm surprised there aren't any because I didn't even know this was an issue.
Like I said, it was from a concern from someone who contacted me about this, and I said I'd be happy to put a bill in. I certainly, if we can expand
Yeah.
the right of law enforcement officers that have had that training, I think it's certainly something I support, but I know there may be conflicting issues as well.
You may have heard my question of another gentleman. So school grounds cannot have firearms. I believe the only one who can, it's part of the uniform, would be the school resource officer. So if a retired or active law enforcement officer did comply with the federal code and walked in and had their firearm, they could show that ID that allows them to have that.
That is what I would intend with
Okay.
this, but like I said, as I understand it, may still be in violation of the federal law. So
Okay.
that is my understanding. So that's what I've heard that information. I've heard conflicting things on it, and I know that would be part of the consideration the committee would have to
Thank
take.
you.
Yeah.
Any other questions of of Representative Morris? Seeing none, thank you. I now, if Representative Corey is here, is he? He can present his bill, and then we'll ask the public to testify on both.
Representative Corey is not here yet. He is also testifying in tax.
Oh my
And will
God.
be here as.
Okay, we're going to do the best we can. I'm opening up the general discussion on LD 1286. Oh, no, not 1286. Excuse me. On 1250. So this is Representative Morris's bill. I would ask the people who are in the attendee room, please raise your hand if you wish to testify in support of this bill.
I'll be bringing one person over.
Thank you. Hello. I have two names before me who wish to testify in support of this bill. I will recognize Daryl Ferris, followed by Jonathan Martell.
Can you hear me?
Can we see you? Are you on video, sir?
There we go. How's that?
Well, a little better. You look like the federal witness protection there for a minute. Go right ahead, sir.
My name is Daryl Ferris. I am a prior law enforcement officer. I used to be with the Androscoggin Sheriff's Department. Did that from March of 1981 through August of 1996. I have what they call an HR 218, which is also known as LEOSA. This is the Law Enforcement Safety Act, which was enacted back in 2004. In order to have the HR 218 or the LEOSA, we have to qualify every year with a firearm. Our information, once we've qualified with a certificate, is sent off to the Maine Criminal Justice Academy, at which point they also do a background check on me. So within this 305 days, I have to requalify, and I also have to have a background check. So that's two things that you wouldn't have to do on a state level because it's already part of the LEOSA, Law Enforcement Safety Act. Once they have verified this, then I have credentials that I'm issued from them saying that I am certified, that I have met the criteria for their particular qualifications, which is the same thing as an active on-duty police officer. This issue date and an expiration date, each one of the cards that issue to us. So within that 365-day period, it does expire. One of the important issues that I feel about the reason why we should have this enacted is because the school zones are one of the easiest targeted areas for the criminals. Being an on-duty officer, an off-duty officer, a reserve officer, or a retired officer, they're not allowed to carry onto school zones, and they're not allowed to carry on a lot of other property. So if there is a off-duty officer or a officer that meets these criteria that was in the area, that he may be able to intersect with what's going on with the situation, whether it's to do with a knife, to do with a handgun, to do with, you know, whatever the circumstances are, and they would be able to occupy the full power of carrying a concealed weapon to protect themselves or to protect somebody else. I don't think it's going to be a situation where it's going to arise a lot of times, but should it arise, then you are able to protect both yourself or the community. California, the places that he was referring to, they do have it out in California. They are called peace officers.
Could you,
But a
Mr.
full-time officer,
Mr. Ferris, could you, the time is up. Could you wrap up, please?
California is the ones that actually have it, and they have it so that the police officers of California can carry in school zones. So you may want to check with them to find out what they do.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions of
What?
Mr. Ferris?
No,
I want you to hear that. Can you hear that?
no.
That's the washing machine.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Ferris.
Is it shaking?
I mean, that's
Representative, okay, thank you. I now will recognize, oh, there you are. I was looking for your name, Mr. Martell.
Good morning again. I generally support this bill. I do have exceptions with carve-outs for ex-law enforcement officers, specifically because these tend to get used for to garner support for anti-firearms rights bills. So I just wanted to comment on that. I think it's great for anyone that's a current law enforcement officer to be able to carry in a school zone, whether they're on or off duty. But as a ex-law enforcement officer, while they may or may not have more training than the average citizen, they are essentially citizens. So what applies to them should also apply to everyone else. So I just wanted to add my comment around that. And then I did have a comment around 1179. I know we haven't gotten to that yet. Should I wait for that, or?
Well, since you have time, if you wish to make some comment.
Okay, sure. I just wanted to speak in favor of that legislation. I don't think Maine law enforcement should be spending Maine taxpayer funds in support of any federal so-called buyback programs, and certainly not in any confiscation efforts. And this also includes things like accessories like magazines and that kind of thing. So I am in support of 1179. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
And thank you, Mr. Martell. Any questions of Mr. Martell and his testimony? Seeing none, thank you again. Representative Corey, we're just wrapping up with Representative Morris's bill. We're up to anyone who wishes to testify in opposition, then we'll get to you, okay? Anyone wishing to make testimony in opposition of this bill? Please raise your hand, we'll let you in.
I'm bringing in 2 people over.
And this is LD 1250. And I see Mr. Bickford. Now we see you.
Thank you, Senator. Yes, I've managed to stabilize my internet connection, and unfortunately for you guys, that means you have to see me. So, but Senator DeChambeau, Representative Warren, distinguished members of the Criminal Justice and Public Safety Committee. Again, my name is Jeff Bickford. I'm the Executive Director of the Maine Gun Safety Coalition. On behalf of our Board of Directors and thousands of supporters statewide, I urge you to vote ought not to pass on LD 1250, an act to allow law enforcement officers with Federal Law Enforcement Officer Safety Act clearance to carry a concealed weapon in otherwise restricted areas. I do appreciate, first of all, that Representative Morris, the bill's sponsor, has highlighted some of the ambiguities in the law and the way that the federal and state laws may interact. And I too would urge you to take a look at that if this bill moves forward or as you work towards the work session. And I also appreciate very much that the federal clearance does require a regular reinstatement or recertification, which obviously alleviates some of the concern about folks aging out of a point where they can have familiarity with a weapon, and especially in high pressure situations, and be able to capably use it. But my real concern with this bill is really in the language itself. And that alone is why I would ask you to vote ought not to pass on this. In the final sentence at line 7 in the bill, it says that a may can carry a concealed weapon in an area in which the carrying of a concealed weapon is prohibited by law or rule. And what concerns me is that I guess law probably has a common sense meaning, but I'm not sure if that refers to federal, state, or state law, or both. And there's no definition of rule. Now, rule has a very specific meaning in both federal and state law in terms of rules passed down by an administrative agency or created by some kind of legislative rule as well. Or there's a variety of ways in which rulemaking is undertaken, especially as it pertains to an issue as sensitive as this, which is, the law appropriately determining that there are some places where concealed carry should not be engaged in. And so that's really my trouble with this bill, primarily, is that the language is far too ambiguous. We don't know what that means. We don't know how far that would stretch. I understand that perhaps the intention is to ensure, as others have noted, that we have more reliable access to trained folks to carry firearms onto school campuses as a way of preventing or stopping a school shooting. That's a whole nother bill, and I think that should be considered on its own merits. But as per this bill, again, my trouble is really that the language is much too broad and we don't know what that means.
Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Any questions of Mr. Bickford at all? Seeing none, I will now go to Dr. Fitz.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Senator DeChambeau. I am opposed to this bill because of the inclusion of retired people being included. And my understanding is that the training required for this annual recertification is not as rigorous as we would think. There's an annual firearms recertification, which involves just 10 hours in a shooting range. And if you look at what is recommended by the International Association of Law Enforcement Firearm Instructors, the learning curve for psychomotor skills needed for semi-automatic pistol manipulations is such that without constant and frequent reinforcement, these skills will deteriorate. And we're talking about retired people. The International Association of Chiefs of Police suggested that firearm training should probably be held at least 3 times a year, which is a little bit lower standard than what the law enforcement firearm instructors are recommending. So retired people, how old are they? How long have they been retired? How have they gotten this certification? What are their skills? And if they're going to be serving and acting as a police officer, which is Darrell Ferris's testimony earlier, suggests that they're the same as an active duty police officer. but they're not. And the parallel that I will give is that I'm a retired surgeon, and the last time I took out a gallbladder was 35, 37 years ago because I subspecialized. I could maintain my license in medicine, but Senator Deschambault, you want me taking out your gallbladder, I believe. I'm a retired surgeon. I haven't done that in a while. My expertise is a little shaky on that. Could I do it in a pinch? Yes, but I don't think you should include people who are retired. They're retired for a reason. They're retired because they're tired of it. They may be retired because of medical reasons, and you don't want them to think that they're going to behave in a true law enforcement fashion in a public building. So I hope that this bill ought not to pass simply on that reason alone. Thank you very much.
And thank you for your testimony, Dr. Fitz. Any questions of Dr. Fitz? Representative Costain.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Doc, for being here. Are you familiar with the qualifications? Because you have to qualify every year to be proficient to be able to carry under this law. I didn't know if you were aware of that.
Well, my understanding is that the qualifications are minimal qualifications.
It's the same standards. It's the same standard as what the academy would be. The academy standards that you have to qualify as a full-time police officer would.
Is that an annual at the range, or is it 4 times a year? Or is it, how often is it?
It's an annual thing at the range.
Because I don't think that's enough unless you're an actively working as a police officer. That gets my attention.
Right. The academy standards, though, is I believe you only have to qualify once a year.
Do you think that's enough?
Well, we'll get some information and we'll make that determination. Unless Representative Costain wants to respond to that.
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
Thank you. No other, Senator Seaway.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I agree with Representative Costain. I just wanted to let you know too that the academy does, they put you through a rigorous training, and also that it's most of the time it's twice a year. They have a qualification once a year, but they have also a practice drill also as well twice a year. So they do get all the training the same, and they also have to be, in order to stay certified, you have a 40-hour. I think there's about 40 hours of classes you also have to take to keep certified as a retired deputy or a police officer.
All right.
I'd love to see that cleared up before this bill goes forward.
Dr. Fitz, that's part of our work session. We'll have some of that information if we request that. All right. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition of LD 1250? Seeing
no
none.
hands.
Excuse me?
Seeing no hands, Senator.
Thank you. We will now ask for those who wish to speak neither for nor against.
Again, seeing no hands.
Great. All right. For that matter, I will rule that LD 1250, that the public hearing has ended. I now will welcome Representative Corey and LD 1179, and this is an act to restrict Maine law enforcement participation in the federal firearm confiscation or buyback program without legislative approval. Welcome, Representative Corey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Deschambault, Representative Warren, and members of the Committee on Criminal Justice and Public Safety. I'm Representative Patrick Corey of Wyndham, and I'm testifying in support of LD 1179, an act to restrict Maine law enforcement participation in federal firearm confiscation or buyback programs without legislative approval. LD 1179 seeks to provide Maine with autonomy and choice in partnering with the federal government in confiscation or buyback programs targeting firearms and ammunition magazines legally owned by Mainers today. For Maine's law enforcement officers and agencies to participate in these federal programs, both of Maine's legislative chambers and the governor would have to agree. This bill does not prevent the federal government from enforcing laws within Maine. It simply asserts that Maine's legislature will have a say in how our law enforcement resources are used while engaging in federal firearm confiscation and buyback programs. Maine has a long-standing tradition of safe and responsible firearm ownership. With that, we are continually ranked the safest state in the nation with the lowest violent crime rate and a very low property crime rate. Mainers have always been free to purchase and own all federally legal firearms and ammunition magazines to date, so they have become commonplace in gun owner homes and safes. Maine's Constitution is quite explicit in protecting our rights to own firearms. Article 1, Section 16 reads, to keep and bear arms. Every citizen has a right to keep and bear arms, and this right shall never be questioned. President Biden's 2020 campaign website outlines a buyback and National Firearms Act registration scheme that essentially amounts to gun confiscation unless you're able to lay down some significant money. Under this plan, Americans will be given the option to sell firearms they legally own to the federal government, likely below the actual value, or register those firearms under the NFA. While this may seem reasonable, to keep a firearm or magazine above 10 rounds you currently own, each item registered would require a $200 tax stamp, fingerprints, a photo, and mountain of paperwork. Of course, not mentioned on Biden's campaign website is the penalty for not complying. Under the National Firearms Act, that would be 10 years in federal prison and a $10,000 fine. The Biden plan to end our gun violence epidemic can still be found on the campaign website by visiting www.joebiden.com/gun safety. Mainers will be put in a position of surrendering firearms and magazines unless they can pay exorbitant taxes on items they already own and undergo considerable time, effort, and an invasion of privacy to keep them. If a gun owner disagrees, they become a felon. When I was on the Criminal Justice and Public Safety Committee, we were often concerned about putting otherwise law-abiding people in the criminal justice system. It's not without precedent for Maine to disallow state law enforcement for participating in federal activities that harm the liberties of Mainers. In 1855, our legislature passed and the governor signed Chapter 182 captioned an act to further protect personal liberty. This law prohibited Maine's judges and courts, officers, facilities, and law enforcement from participating in, giving any assistance, or otherwise facilitating the activities of slave catchers operating under the federal fugitive slave law, while at the same time not expressly not obstructing federal officers from acting under that law. The penalties for violating this law were severe at the time, a $1,000 fine and a year in jail. Maine's legislature would be able to decide if we want our law enforcement involved in partnering with the federal government in programs aimed at criminalizing lawful firearm ownership today. Moreover, do we really want to devote state resources to schemes that may not comport with the Maine or US Constitution without our oversight? Thank you.
I'm trying to, okay. Thank you, Representative Corey. Any questions of Representative Corey? I've got maybe two questions. One question is this limited to firearms?
It would be firearms or magazines. Those are the two things that, at least have been mentioned on that website.
Yeah. I don't know of any local government that does this, but there is another longstanding tradition, and that's home rule. Currently, chief law enforcement officers can go before the council or selectmen in purchasing other items. So that's what I'm concerned. I don't know if they've ever purchased firearms, but so you're saying that firearms would not be under the purview of local government, but with the state government, basically.
I think so. I think that, this, if we want to talk about home rule and local control, I think that also starts at the state level. I mean, all this law does is it, puts, the legislature in the seat of deciding whether or not we want to, cooperate, with a federal program. So each one of us, comes from a town or represents a bunch of municipalities, and we would all have a vote with regard to whether or not we wanted to commit our law enforcement to these activities.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions, I will now ask if there's any co-sponsors or legislator who wishes to speak regarding this bill. Please raise your hand. We'll let you in.
Seeing none, Senator.
Thank you. I now will ask anyone in support of LD 1179 to raise your hand so you can testify.
I'm bringing over 3 people.
Thank you. All right. I will recognize Lauren LePage, please.
Good morning, Senator DeChambeau, Representative Warren, distinguished members of the committee. My name is Lauren LePage. I'm from Sanford, Maine, and I'm the state director for the National Rifle Association. I'm here in support of LD 1179. This bill is pretty straightforward, so my testimony will be quite brief. But to address your question, Senator DeChambeau, I believe that this bill only addresses federal buyback programs. So if a local government decided that they wanted to allow people to turn firearms in, which is done very regularly now, that would still be okay under this law. But gun buyback programs across the nation are often pitched with high hopes of curbing crime by taking guns off the street. These programs have proven to be failures. They're waste of taxpayer dollars, and they've had no noticeable impact on crime. The average person who voluntarily surrenders a firearm is not a criminal, and the firearms surrendered have not been misused by criminals. Oftentimes, individuals are looking to turn in firearms when there's been a death in the family or for some other personal reason. And any criminal who does turn in a crime gun can do so in the reliance of a no questions asked basis. So oftentimes they're turning in these guns and they're simply trying to obtain funds to spend on new weapons, which won't actually reduce in taking crime guns off the street. I would also add, like I just stated, I'm married to a law enforcement officer. It's very common for law enforcement agencies to have a pretty open door policy when it comes to a constituent who wants to turn a firearm in that they no longer care to have in their home. This is done on a regular basis in the most police agencies that I know in the state of Maine. I certainly can't speak on behalf of every single municipality, but for these reasons, we respectfully urge the committee to support this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of Ms. LePage? Seeing none, I will now go to Donna Stevens.
Good morning, Senator DeChambeau, Representative Warren, and honorable members of the committee. My name is Donna Stevens. I'm a resident of Bath, and I'm testifying in favor of LD 1179. A lot of supportive testimony focuses on how confiscation and mandatory buybacks violate both the U.S. and Maine constitutions, and how government can't buy back what they never owned or sold. So I'd like to focus on the state's right to nullify any federal law. The case for a state to nullify a federal law doesn't depend on constitutionality of that law. In 5 cases between 1842 and 2018, the U.S. Supreme Court has upheld the legal doctrine known as anti-commandeering, which holds that the federal government can't require states and/or local governments or localities to participate in the enforcement of federal laws or use public resources in enforcement. I'd like to point out 2 of those cases particularly relevant to this legislation. In SCOTUS's Prince versus United States ruling in 1997 addressed a provision in the Brady gun bill that required county law enforcement officers to administer a part of the background check program. The argument was that the provisions unconstitutionally forced them to administer a federal program. Quote, "We held in New York that Congress cannot compel the states to enact or enforce federal regulatory programs. Today, we hold that Congress cannot circumvent that prohibition by conscripting the state's officers directly. The federal government may neither issue directives requiring the states to address particular problems nor command the state's officers or those of their political subdivisions to administer or enforce a federal regulatory program. It matters not whether policymaking is involved, and no case-by-case swing of the burdens or benefits is necessary. Such commands are fundamentally incompatible with our constitutional system of dual sovereignty." SCOTUS's Prigg versus Pennsylvania ruling in 1842 ruled that the state had a right to not participate in enforcing federal law known as the Fugitive Slave Act of 1793. LD 1179 would empower Maine's legislature, the duly elected voice of the people, to determine if the federal directive to confiscate the firearms of law-abiding citizens, thus taking away their ability to defend themselves or even hunt with their firearm of choice, is reasonable in light of what the current event may be, precipitating a federal directive. It empowers them to ensure that any federal laws do not compel Maine to act in a manner repugnant to the rights of Maine people, among which is the right to keep and bear arms. As we should all be in favor of preserving Maine's rights to not blindly enforce federal laws, I ask that you vote ought to pass on LD 1179. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stevens. Representative Pickett, you have a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Stevens, thank you for being here. My question is, would you please turn in your testimony into the queue so we can have a copy of it, please?
Absolutely. Yeah, I had a lot of technical difficulties this morning with my internet, so I didn't get to submit it online.
Thank you. Thank you. If you can do that, so we'll have it for the work session, that would be great. Thank you.
Seeing no other hands up, I now will recognize David Trahan. Welcome.
Thank you. Senator DeChambeau, Representative Warren, members of the Committee on Criminal Justice and Public Safety. I'm David Trahan, Executive Director of the Sportsmen's Alliance of Maine Institute for Legislative Action, testifying in support of LD 1179. This is a SAM ILA bill that we asked Representative Patrick Corey to introduce for us, so we'd like to thank him for doing that. LD 1179 seeks to reinforce the established legal precedent that states have the sovereign right to self-govern. And when the president passes an executive order or Congress passes a law, states are not obligated to use state employees to enforce a federal law. A good example of this case is border enforcement of federal immigration law. Congress has passed immigration laws, but many states are refusing to use their law enforcement or state resources to assist federal agents. Additional precedent for this legislation that is in front of you today goes all the way back to 1793, when the federal government passed 2 Fugitive Slave Acts, and then in 1855, and I'm very proud of Maine for this, the state of Maine joined several northern states to pass personal liberty laws barring judges or law enforcement from rounding up fugitive slaves on behalf of the federal government and sending them back to slave owners. Just like LD 1179, the personal liberty laws forbade state officials and public police from helping to enforce federal laws, except in this case, 1179 does allow state law enforcement to participate in a federal confiscation or buyback program, but only with the approval of their duly elected and accountable state legislature and governor. Currently, the gun control debate is raging in Congress, and our president supports banning certain firearms and firearm accessories. There is also discussion about instituting firearm confiscation or firearm buyback programs targeting legally owned firearms and firearms and their owners. This controversial debate is totally appropriate in the way we make laws in this country. But what is good in Washington is not necessarily good in Maine. LD 1179 is legislation that guarantees Maine people have a say through their elected lawmakers whether their state taxpayer dollars will be used for a federal program the majority of Maine people may or may not support. This legislation does not stop the federal government from enforcing their policy. It just means they have to do it themselves unless our lawmakers agree. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Trahan. Any questions of Mr. Trahan? A lot of information there. Thanks.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in support of this bill?
Seeing no hands.
Thank you. Anyone in opposition?
I'll be bringing 2 people over.
Welcome, Mr. Bickford. You may proceed.
Thank you. I swear you'll only see me a few more times today. I promise. Senator Deschambault, Representative Warren, and distinguished members of the Criminal Justice Committee and Public Safety Committee. Again, my name is Jeff Bickford. I represent the Maine Gun Safety Coalition, our board of directors and supporters, and I'm here to ask you to vote ought not to pass on this. Before I begin my prepared remarks, I just want to push back on a few things I've heard tonight. Or today, regarding the NRA lobbyist, Ms. LePage statement that folks are using gun buyback funds to purchase other guns. I have a good fortune. One of my best friends is a professor of criminology and criminal law data at George Mason University. And in preparation for this testimony, I asked him to pull as much as he could on studies evaluating gun buyback programs or give back programs. And I texted him and said, have you heard anything about that? He said, there is absolutely no evaluation claiming what she claims about that there's ever been a case where someone has used or any program where there's been evidence that funds have been used to purchase further weapons. So I just asked that if this committee is going to take that into consideration, that they would ask for her citation on that. I can't provide a citation because there is no study in opposition, but I am happy to provide my friend's written statement if that would be helpful about his evaluation of the evidence. Further, in response to Mr. Trahan's comment, I think one thing that's lost here is that a federal, it's absolutely true that a federal government cannot require a local municipality to participate in a program. In fact, the United States Supreme Court had ruled that that was unconstitutional in a case involving, of all things, background checks. So they can't Shanghai or force a local town to participate in a federal program. This would be voluntary. If Portland wants to participate in this, they should be allowed to participate in it. And if Bangor doesn't, then that's fine too, but they shouldn't have their hands tied by the state legislature. If there's oversight, it should be done at the town level, who controls the police department's budget and the police department's behavior. I'll just say very quickly in my remaining time, in 2019, Maine Gun Safety Coalition, along with 9 police departments across the state, ran a gun give back. That was a free program. It was no payment for guns or anything like that. We recovered or took in, people voluntarily surrendered 500 guns and over 10,000 rounds of ammunition in 4 hours. Every one of those guns is a gun that's not going to be used in a suicide, not be stolen out of someone's camp and sold in the streets of Boston, not be discovered by a child wandering through their grandparents' home. To take away that ability, if the federal government was to incentivize local police departments by giving them funding or a stipend to participate in this program, we should not tie those departments' hands when it comes to participating in these valuable programs. I see my time is up.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Bickford? Seeing none, thank you again. I now, this is an opposition. I have Rebecca Graham. Welcome.
Thank you, Senator Deschambault, Representative Warren, and distinguished members of the Criminal Justice and Public Safety Committee. My name is Rebecca Graham, and I'm here representing Maine Municipal Association at the behest of our 70-member Legislative Policy Committee. The state of Maine does not pay for municipal police services, and their enforcement priorities are shaped directly by the residents who do pay for those services. Municipal police must take a deliberative approach to participate in such federal programs, as they often require extensive administrative time, storage space, and many local facilities simply don't have that availability. A municipality may choose this option to avoid mishandling of firearms or to divert the costs of disposal of weapons that are turned into that police department by the members of that community. Often responsible citizens do this because they're either cleaning out a residence that's passed or are in possession of a weapon that was involved in a personal tragedy, and they want to ensure that it is not sold or reused again. Sometimes the use of a federal program may make that individual that provides a tangible benefit to that community, may make them feel even more comfortable with that process. It strikes officials as odd that somehow a municipal police department who chooses to dispense of that property legally and responsibly under some sort of approved federal program would fall under the purview of both houses of the legislature and the governor. As drafted, LD 1179 sets a dangerous precedent for overstepping municipal authority to participate in federal programs that provide tangible benefits for those municipal police departments and the taxpayers. This is additionally concerning because this body is all too comfortable with passing unfunded mandates onto those same communities, and now it wants to control how they pursue funding options. Requiring a legislative review of one level of government to seek permission to engage in another level of government's program is disrespecting the constitutional provision of home rule and voter will. And concerns that you have about those programs should definitely be brought to the federal delegates or target the program itself and not be forced upon the communities who don't particularly share that view. Voters who directly pay for those services and elect their local officials should have the only say in what federal programs their police engage with. And for those reasons, we ask that you either entirely exclude municipal police from the purview of this bill, or you vote ought not to pass on LD 1179. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Graham. Any questions of Ms. Graham? Seeing none, thanks again. I don't believe there's anyone else in opposition. Please raise your hand, and also those who may want to speak neither for nor against LD 1179.
Seeing no hand, Senator.
Thank you. So I will rule that the public hearing of 1179 is over. I should have asked any of you in the previous, if there's anything, well, I know we're down to the wire, but if there's any information you may need, I think we've been provided in the testimony with a lot of information. So thank you all. I see Representative Collins, and this is on 1154. Representative Warren, could you take over for me for a few minutes while I return a call?
Yes, absolutely. And I was in another meeting for a second. So the public hearing you just closed was for 1179 and 1250.
Correct. And
wonderful.
Yeah. Now we go back. Representative Collins was unavailable, so that was the second one that was listed, and he's here now.
Wonderful.
Thank you. I shall return.
Good afternoon, Representative Collins. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me, Representative?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, good. Thank you so much to the committee for letting me shift my schedule around. Like a lot of you, I have a few things going on, and I grabbed my phone and jumped onto the Zoom. And thank you again, Senator Deschambault, Representative Warren, distinguished members of the Judiciary Committee. I'm Benjamin Collins. I represent House District 42, which is part of Portland. This proposal before you today, give you a quick history. I wanted to submit this in the last session, 129th session. It was a response to an incident that happened, but it was well after the deadline, and I couldn't get the legislation in at that point. So what had happened is that there was a case in Cumberland County where someone working at a jail was working many hours, many shifts, continuously drove home, unfortunately got in an accident, and a young child was struck and didn't make it. And so it was a very tragic story. And I spoke to some people that worked with the some of the employees, some of the representatives from the Teamsters Union. They were concerned about this. So I wanted to have a bill in to address this. I couldn't do it till this session, so I'm bringing it up again. I believe there have been some non-fatal accidents that have occurred since this with tired employees driving home, working at jails for different counties. And so what this seeks to do is address a problem that's really a safety concern for everyone in Maine. It's a safety concern for prisoners. It's a safety concern for guards and other employees. It's a safety concern for members of the public who might be, walking on the side of the road and someone's tired because they've worked many hours continuously, many days in a row with very few hours of sleep, without much of a break. And so what this would seek to do is mandate some time off before shifts so people could rest. And when people are overworked, when they're forced, when they're mandated to work overtime, it's not good for anyone. And so when someone is tired, they may not be administering medication properly. They might be understaffed and overworked and tired, and there might be sort of confrontations between staff and prisoners. So it really brings a lot of issues to the front that's very concerning. As this is something that has happened multiple times where there's been accidents with tired employees, it's something I think we should address. And I think one of the issues too is why we were stuck in this rut is because new people might start this job, or maybe new people might hear about working for the jails, the county jails. But once they start, they may not want to continue the job, and they may discontinue working for a county, or they may not even apply to begin with because they've heard from other colleagues or friends about the situation of forced overtime. And I think this also, I understand that this leaves the sheriffs in a tough spot, but I think we can't kick this can down the road anymore, so to speak. I really think we need to solve all the problems that are leading to this. And I know that would entail, this isn't what the bill's about, but I do know that we need to pay workers more, train them more, take better care of them, offer them more, so they'll do these very challenging and difficult jobs. So, I mean, that's one part of it, which isn't addressed in this bill, but unless we really tackle this, we're going to stay where we are, where people aren't going to want to take these jobs. The few people working here are going to be forced to work many hours, and it's going to bring many more safety concerns for prisoners, for employees, and unfortunately for members of the general public who, as we've seen, have been the victims tragically. I don't blame, someone. They obviously didn't intentionally want to get tired and fall asleep. So I'm in no way trying to go after anyone. So anyway, that's what the bill's about. I hope the committee can really take it seriously. I know this session has been strange. We're working long hours. It seems like we've been here for 2 years. We've been in the legislature for 4 months. And so I know this is a big issue to tackle, but I really think this committee, this legislature, the counties, the sheriffs, we really need to address the staffing and other factors that, need to be addressed, because, I mean, how many more accidents are we going to tolerate? And I don't even know all the situations that are happening within these jails because of the direct or indirect cost and consequences of this format. It can't be good for anybody. I strongly urge this committee to work this bill in good faith. And I'm not here to attack anyone, inmates. I'm not here to attack the employees. I'm not here to attack sheriff or county personnel. What I'm saying is that there's a problem. It has to be addressed. And just to simply say, well, this is the way it is and there's nothing we can do about it, I don't think that's good enough, because there's people's lives that are at risk here. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you so much for letting me come before this committee at a later time than originally planned. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and I would genuinely do all I can to work with you and anyone else who should be involved. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative. Questions for Representative Collings? We're going to start with Representative Pickett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Representative Collins, for being here today. Question I have for you, sir, is don't you think that this would be more of a collective bargaining issue than it is us to make law on?
Well, I think the people that represent some of these employees asked me to bring this up to the legislature because it's not being addressed in collective bargaining to a satisfactory result. I just think with the forced overtime and the way the current situation is, it really leaves the sheriffs in a tough spot, and it leaves the workers in a tough spot. And I think that because of the situation, Representative Pickett, I think that it's a deterrent. It's keeping people. It's a deterrent for hiring new people. I think people don't want to deal with those stressful situations. So it's kind of like that, one of these chicken and egg things, scenarios. But it's if we don't solve this issue, I think we'll just stay in this sort of dangerous precedent, because I just think a lot of younger people aren't going to want to start careers here. You have a lot of older people that keep doing these jobs out of obligation. They feel obligated. They want to serve their communities and do this job, and they take pride in it. But we've got a lot of older people in this work population, and to get younger people, I know Representative Pickett, this isn't the silver bullet that solves everything, but I hope that it could lead to something, whether it's through this bill or through other work you're doing in this committee to address this and somehow make it part of the equation. So,
follow up, Madam Chair.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Representative Collins. I would also say this and ask this: isn't it also, if we do go ahead with this, setting a dangerous precedent for all of our bargaining units out here throughout the state, that what we're dealing with different people on, when we interfere with collective bargaining? We as a committee have really taken it upon ourselves in bills that we've dealt with collective bargaining. We've pushed this issue really, really hard, and we're being told that those meetings are taking place and they're scheduled to take place. And wouldn't it really, I mean, I know what you're trying to do, and I commend you for that, but isn't that really where this needs to be? It needs to be worked out between the employer and the employee. And then if it doesn't get worked out in the contract the next time, then maybe a bill might be something worthwhile. But what's your thought on that?
No, I think it's a valid point, and I would concur with you, Representative Pickett, that I don't want to meddle in contracts between two parties. I usually want to stay out of it and let them do what they do and get the best results possible. I think what we're seeing here, though, is that despite any negotiations, that this is a problem that kind of crosses the line into other areas, and that no matter what they could bargain, I think there's other circumstances that are forcing this situation where new people just, maybe it's just not enough money. Maybe it's because I honestly think that people don't want to work these stressful, long, forced overtime shifts. I think that is really the issue. And I'm not sure if that could be solved in collective bargaining. I think the people that work on these issues, negotiating I think they're all kind of saying, like, there's something that's happening out of our control that we can't really fix at the bargaining table. I mean, I think that it's something that crosses over to prisoner safety, staff safety, sheriff safety, public safety. And so while I do think that that's one part of it, I think there needs to be a multi-pronged approach here. I think it should be discussed in negotiations, but I think there's a larger issue and a theme here. And I mean, I just would hate to hear of reading another story in the paper of another accident. I mean, and again, I don't even know I don't even know what the situation's like inside, what's going on. But you know, you would have to imagine that this is affecting some things happening in these facilities. If people are on the way home so tired that they're getting into accidents, that there might be some, you know, people working that are so tired that unwittingly might do things that we probably don't want to happen. So thank you, sir.
Representative Costain.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Collins, my question would be is I notice in this bill that you're talking about county jails, but I think DOC is as much involved with this as county jails. Is your intentions not to include DOC, or was it just left out if this bill was to pass?
I heard from people working within the county jails, representative. I haven't heard from anyone that works, you know, on the state level with any of those prisons. I did reach out to some representatives. I never heard back from them, so I took it that this wasn't the same sort of staffing issue or concern that we see at the county level. I could be wrong, but I didn't want to add people if they didn't directly tell me that this was an issue and they wanted to be included. Upon further research, or if other people from the department weigh in and want to address concerns that they have from any side there, I'd be glad to have conversations with them. But this was directly an issue that I was hearing was happening at the county level with the jails, and so that's why I kept the scope to that for now. But happy to, you know, if there's a greater issue happening in other facilities, and by all means, I think we should look at that as well if it's really a safety concern. So
follow up, ma'am.
Yes.
So I believe if we're looking at with this bill passing, I mean, we hear every time the commissioner or people from DOC speak to us that they're having personnel issues and the same issues that the county jails are. I think they should be included. Just a thought. Thank you.
yes, absolutely. That's a very good point. And
So we'll let you, Representative Collins, how about we let you sort of do some work about that, and we'll talk about that at the work session?
yes, I'll reach out. Yes, sure.
Wonderful. Thank you. I have another question for you, Representative Newman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Collins, what makes people from a jail staff any more dangerous driving home after 16 hours plus than the nurses that are held over in hospitals due to a blizzard for 24 hours, or the plow drivers or utility workers? You know, it's just when you start limiting one profession over all the others, I don't see what makes one profession any more dangerous than the other.
Thank you. No, that's a good point, Representative Newman. So, I mean, if it's for a private or a not-for-profit entity, that would be trickier for us, not really having complete jurisdiction, or, you know, to some direct tie to as much as with governmental employees. But I mean, that's something that I agree that should be looked at holistically. And as far as if they are someone that you know, works for a state or a municipality or whatnot, like driving a plow, then yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if they have this exact unique issue. Again, I did bring this forward because I've heard of multiple cases of this happening with people working in the jails. I'm not sure if how many other accidents are happening because of you know, forced overtime in other governmental or non-governmental sectors. I think you're right. It's something that we should look at and address if we have jurisdiction. I think that as far as this bill is concerned, the concern is about accidents that have happened outside of the driving home, and then as well as what might be happening. What is it really safe to be understaffed and overworked dealing with inmates? And so I think those are some sort of unique circumstances, and that's why I wanted to bring it forward. And I do agree with you, though. I think it brings up a larger conversation about safety issues in general with certain labor conditions.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Searway.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Representative Collins, for bringing this forward. I think, you know, you're making some good points, and I think that it is serious. But at the same token, I'm wondering, you know, have you looked at the full scope of why these things are happening? I know Cumberland, they're short-staffed. And I think there's a lot of other things that's caused them to be short-staffed, which kind of leads to overtime, and then it leads to sleep deprivation. So I don't know if cutting the hours is going to be the answer, because then you're not going to have even any the inmates covered. So I don't know how what your thoughts are on that, on how this all kind of evolves to get to what you want done. How's that going to work?
Does that?
Yeah. Thank you, Senator Searway. Good to see you again. I saw you yesterday on the committee, and good to see you again today, another one. Yeah, no, and Senator, again, I think that there's some other underlying conditions that aren't being addressed in my bill I'm presenting today, specifically about resources and pay and training and benefits, and, you know, the whole picture, which I think has to be addressed seriously to deal with this. And then there's some other issues about other ways we can try to prevent people from even being incarcerated, which might solve some of this as well. But specifically here, I think one of the really big issues is that one of the reasons a lot of younger people don't want to go into this workforce in the jails is number one, it's a tough thing. It's not for everyone, but and the pay may not be great, but I think the forced overtime for a lot of younger people coming in, it just right off the bat, it just kind of scares them off a bit if they go in and this is the stressful situation and they're working like that. And I think that there comes to a point of diminishing returns where I think for anyone in any industry, once you work so much, it's just you're a human. Naturally, you just start to lose your edge a little bit, and you just hit that point where how effective really are you and how safe is that? And so I think that's sort of why I know that maybe they're willing to work all the combined hours they're already working, but maybe if there can be a way that they just have a break in between working consecutively, that might cut down on some of the accidents. And that's what I was really trying to get at, is can they just have a breather in between? Maybe they're still working a lot and doing everything they can to help the sheriff accommodate the scheduling, but it's maybe with a little bit more rest in between consecutive shifts, maybe that will I know it's a little bite of the apple. It's not the whole thing, but that's sort of what, and again, my intent was really when I saw, an accident happen and then some more have happened, I was like, I felt bad for everyone involved. I don't want to, again, blame anyone. I want to find a way that we can solve this problem. So.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Representative Collins? Seeing none. Thank you, Representative, for bringing this bill to us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to present a bill in this committee for my first time in 5 years. So.
Wonderful. Well, we enjoyed having you here.
Thank you so much.
Are there any sponsors or legislators that would like to speak on this bill? Seeing none, we'll now take testimony in support of LD 1154. Please raise your hand and we'll start to bring you in and take testimony.
Seeing no hands, Representative.
Thank you. We'll now take testimony in opposition to LD 54.
Again, seeing no hands. Oh, wait, there's one.
Thank you, Deb. Good afternoon, Sheriff.
Good afternoon, Representative, and I apologize. I threw my hand up too fast. We're either neither for nor against, and to be quite frank, only because of listening to discussion in the waiting room, I thought I'd weigh in and perhaps bring further discussion that we could take care of during work session.
Beautiful. I think you're going to be perfect. So stay right where you are and let me just make sure anyone here to testify in opposition to LD 1154. Okay, we don't have anyone additionally here to speak neither for nor against LD 1154. And Sheriff, go right ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Warren. Distinguished members of criminal justice, my name is Troy Morton. I'm the Sheriff of Penobscot County and also President of the Maine Sheriff's Association. We did not prepare written testimony nor verbal testimony, but I did watch in the waiting room, and I noticed that many of the questions were directed directly to the county jails. So we thought we'd weigh in, and certainly probably will be most useful during your work session to come back. I would acknowledge quickly that this is an issue. We know that working long hours is an issue. Me personally, for our county jail, we do not allow folks to work over 16 hours. We had a lengthy discussion amongst sheriffs about this particular bill and the challenges. It wouldn't take any more than a Google search to see that this is a nationwide problem, not just a state problem. It certainly impacts, although I will not speak for DOC, this impacts state facilities, county facilities. Some of the challenges, as you know, this committee listens to them daily. This is a difficult job, a very challenging job. It's not always just wages and benefits, but that certainly impacts it. We are asking correctional facilities to do more and more. And so when we do more and more, it takes more and more staff. And then unfortunately, when staff go or leave, except for higher wages or other jobs, there are many places in the state where you can simply go to really entry labor positions making far more than you can working in a correctional facility. So those are many of the challenges. And when we're short-staffed, most every county jail and certainly state facilities are short-staffed. You folks have heard that for years now. That is impacting the amount of work. There's no question. Forced overtime is something that was here when I started as corrections officer a few years back. And so we'd like to and continue to try to work on things that make that better, whether it's different schedules or whatnot. That's another important thing to remember, that all these facilities have different schedules. So happy to come back to work session. If there's questions that folks might have for me now, it will help me develop a survey for our sheriffs, and we can get back to you in work session. I think that is where we'll be most valuable to you.
That's really helpful. Thank you, Sheriff. Questions for Sheriff Morton? Seeing none, thank you, and thank you for making yourself available for the work session.
Absolutely. We will prepare some questions for sheriffs and try to come back on what I've heard today.
Wonderful. Thank you. Great. Well, then I will close the public hearing for LD 1154. Representative Rudnicki.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just wondering, do we know when the work session is going to be on these bills?
I think Jane does. It's tomorrow.
On these bills?
I think the bills that we are hearing today and Friday, the work session is next Tuesday morning.
Oh,
thank you.
I have 1154 listed tomorrow, so I guess we have a mistake on the schedule.
Yeah, so do I have that
Yeah,
as well.
You have
Yep.
that?
I'll try to figure that out. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. And thank you for the question, Representative Rudnicki. How are people feeling? You want to do a lunch break before we keep going?
Representative Costain is feverishly waving his hand, yes, so I think we do. How about 1 o'clock?
Okay, let me hear from Representative Pluker before we make that decision. Yes, Representative Pluker.
With the committee's indulgence, if I could present 1446 before lunch, that would be great because I need to be in VLA at 1.
That makes sense. We can do that. We can be patient people.
Hey, so
Dan?
do I.
Oh, no.
Can we
We're not
hang?
gonna be that patient.
They're grouped in the same group. So with leave of the committee, how about if we hear from the two sponsors quickly for them to present their bills, then we take a break and we come back for the public session. Does that make sense?
That
Okay.
works for me.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you all. Let's start with Representative Pluker and then Representative Kinney, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, committee, for postponing lunch for me here. Thank you for the opportunity to present LD 1446, an act to aid municipalities in issuance of concealed handgun permits. The idea for this bill came to me from my town manager and select board, who are currently issuing concealed weapons permits to applicants after our town manager does a Google search on the applicant. We have no access to the deeper background checks. From what I understand, there are approximately 100 towns in Maine that are currently in a similar predicament. You'll probably hear a more in-depth history from the Department of Public Safety on how we ended up in this situation. But the short of it is that when the requirement for a concealed weapon permit was dropped by the state, there were towns that were not working with the department at that time or receiving background checks from them. My town had undertaken to do the work themselves because of a long wait on the permits from the department. The majority of towns in the state had an issuing agreement with the department and were grandfathered in and allowed to continue working with them. Those who did not have an agreement with the department at the time the change was made, were left to fend for themselves. To be clear, if a town has its own police department, unlike my own, then they would still have access to a proper background database that those without a police department would lack. One might ask why there are still so many requests if the permit were no longer necessary. If one wishes to leave the state with a concealed weapon, then the gun owner would still need a permit. There are also those who prefer to have their permit in case the law was changed and began requiring one. The department will be able to speak more to the different reasons a permit might be denied an applicant, but simply put, the department takes a 5-year look back to be sure the person is of good moral character. This level of analysis is not easily done with a Google search. This bill is not asking that the department become the issuing authority of the permit, but that they are required to aid the municipality that requests the aid. The towns shall remain the issuing authorities. After the law was passed that repealed the requirement to have a concealed weapons permit, the staff in the office that did the work was downsized drastically. So this is the staff at the Department of Safety. It's likely that additional staff may be necessary in order to ensure that all towns receive the required information in a timely manner. It is, however, important that those towns which would prefer to have a proper background check in their hands when making the choice to issue the permit have access to the appropriate information. In order to defer some of the costs to the department, we may need to make an amendment in the bill to ensure that those towns with police departments do not needlessly request the help of the department. Our towns must issue these permits according to law. They do not have access to the information that they would prefer to have in order to make a well-informed decision. This bill enables us as a state to ensure permits are issued in a manner that is safe, well-informed, and meets the letter of the law. And I'm happy to answer questions, or you can go right to Representative Kinney and I can talk later during the work session. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Pluker. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We'll go to Representative Kinney for her bill, LD 1286, resolve directing the Department of Public Safety to apply for an exemption from background checks for holders of concealed weapons permits. Welcome.
Hello, Representative Warren. Start out with letting Senator Deschambault know that I have a message with which I was charged. And the response was, "You're missed on VLA." And additionally, Senator Farron was offended that you did not say hello to him as well. So if you need me to send that message along, I'd be happy to.
Yes, I need
I
his
am-
vote. I need his vote. Thank you.
I am Mary Ann Kinney. I represent House District 99, and I am presenting LD 1286, which is a resolve directing the Department of Public Safety to apply for an exemption from background checks for holders of concealed carry weapons permits. When I submitted this bill, I knew very little about how this particular program worked, but I've learned a lot during my investigation and into how this works. This is not an automatic. Main permit carriers would not automatically be exempt from using the background check, that the NICS background check when purchasing a firearm. This is an application to the federal Department of Public Safety, Department of Justice, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosive for this exemption. And I've learned a few things about this, and probably Maine won't even qualify, partially because we have legalized adult use marijuana in the state. And there have been some states that have recently lost their exemption because of legalizing marijuana. So this is simply just a resolve to make that application to help out the law-abiding citizens who have their concealed carry permits in the state of Maine to be able to bypass the NICS system if we can qualify as a state. And that is simply what this is for. And concealed carry permit holders generally are law-abiding citizens who are carrying firearms. This is not to allow criminals to bypass that NICS system. These are law-abiding citizens. And the program, the way that it would work, if your concealed carry permit is revoked, they are supposed to report that directly to NICS. And there is a way to notify the FFLs that they would have there would be certain people that would not be allowed to use their concealed carry permit anymore as an exemption. So that's what I have for today. And I appreciate your time. And I'd be happy to answer any questions, but I'm sure you'll have a lot more people that can answer questions a little better than I can at this point.
Thank you, Representative Kinney. Any questions for Representative Kinney at this point? Yes, Senator Searway.
Just a quick one. So you said that some states have lost their exemption because of legalizing marijuana. And can we have those states, Jane, for the
I believe Michigan was the most recent, but I'm sure there's a list somewhere.
I'll see what I can do.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Jane. Any other questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you, Representative Kinney. Thank you, Representative Kluger. So the plan is that we are going to take a break, let's say
1:15.
1:15. And so for folks here, we'll be back at 1:15 and we'll open the public hearing on these two bills, 1286 and 1446. Thank you. Senator DeChambeau, did you?
Thank you. Enjoy your lunch.
Thank you.
No, I thank you. I was able to make a couple of phone calls that needed to be made. Thank you.
You're welcome. See you in a bit.
Hi, Senator. Where is everybody?
I don't know. I should look. My phone was ringing like crazy. I don't know. Did we have a meeting? Oh. Okay. Deb, what about that email you just sent out? Was there a question about canceling?
No, we sorted it out.
Okay, thank you. Representative Warren, can I give you a phone call?
Of course.
Okay.
We're back.
We're back.
Great.
Dan
So
will be in a minute and Shelley should be right along.
Representative Warren, do you want to continue with the two bills you started? Are you up to now testimony?
We are on those two. Do you mind taking over just for a couple minutes? My brother's stopping by to get some banana cream pudding and then I'll be done.
Was that,
you have two bills in front of you and they're up in Deb's Square. They're 1286 and 1446.
oh,
We
I
heard-
just put those away. Ooh, okay.
We heard from
Representative Warren.
sponsors, but not from testimony yet. Yeah, Representative Pickett.
Would you mind, instead of just for a minute, would you mind just jumping in the car? I'll meet you in the parking lot. You bring mine up there.
I know. My neighbor's so cute. She brought me a vat of banana cream pudding with like Nilla wafers and everything.
Oh,
So I had to call my brother and be like, you guys got to come over here and get some of this. I might meet you in the parking lot. I'll text you first with a delivery.
With the real whipped cream.
I think it is. I may or may not have already had a small dish. But Susan, I can come back and take over in just a minute.
No,
He's
no,
just
I-
coming
yeah,
from next
I know.
door.
So we're up to 1286 and, oh, okay. I already filed them. Jeepers,
Chair, I have a question for the chairs. There was some discussion this morning about, obviously it was an error, but it might have been helpful, that I listed today's bills for work session tomorrow and also on Tuesday. Do you want to announce your decision to keep it that way?
Sure, yes.
Sure.
So
I mean, yeah.
we just had a quick chat about that, you guys, and I think there are some bills that we didn't ask for any more information, like Danny's, Representative Costain's bill and some others. If we feel like we could vote those out tomorrow, I don't see any reason not to, but if anyone feels like they needed more information, we just won't work them tomorrow. But how about we keep them on the list? You all okay with that?
Yeah, we can take them one at a time if we have, and we can move them out if we have to.
Sure.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Representative Costain.
Yes, I'm fine with that, but we may have to table it for a couple days tomorrow, but I'm working on something that we may be all set with it.
That sounds great.
Okay. Are we all set? Wait a minute. 1, 2, 3. Representative Pickett, are you ready to start? No, I'm waiting.
I am.
Yeah, I think I'm missing one. I know Representative Warren stepped out, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you said Representative Renecki is what, on her way back or?
She should be here any minute.
Okay. So Representative Morales is not here. Reckitt, you know, and the people that are we still on YouTube? I don't know. No, I just want the people to know that it's not that we're all late on our own. Down to the wire, every committee is working almost around the clock. That's how it feels like it.
I know I got 2 full days all in one tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah. So,
We have a quorum now, Representative.
yes, thank you. I'm
Pickett.
ready to start. Great.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Madam Chair, before we start, I don't know if you know the answer to this question or not, but have we voted out? Have we moved any votes out? So it's going to be on the calendar for the 13th that you're aware of.
You mean, have we reported them out?
Have we reported them out? Yeah.
I'm sure we have. I would have to defer to our committee clerk. I know that all of them are working overtime to get those out. So I think we can ask that question in a bit later, but I don't have the answer, no.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I'm anticipating a lot of work next week. So, all right, welcome everyone. And we're still in public hearing, so I'm not gonna introduce everybody again. People can see us. And so we heard not testimony, we heard the bills of, oh, well, she took the numbers off. Was that 1286 and 1446, right?
Yes.
Okay, so now we'll have open up for discussion or questions, or wish to testify, I should say. Why don't I take one at a time? I'll take 1286. Anyone from the public or the legislature who wish to testify on 1286, that is from Representative Kinney, and the title of which is Resolve, directing the Department of Public Safety to apply for an exemption from background checks for holders of concealed weapons permit.
I'm bringing in Lauren LePage.
Okay, that's in support, okay,
And another person as well.
thank you. Welcome, Ms. LePage. You may offer your testimony.
Thank you. Back again, 2 full days this week. Good afternoon, Senator DeChambeau, Representative Warren, and distinguished members of the committee. My name is Lauren LePage. I live in Sanford, Maine. I'm the Maine State Director for the NRA and testifying in support of LD 1286. Under the Brady Act, federal firearms licensees or FFLs have to initiate background checks before transferring firearms, although there are exceptions to this NICS check requirement. One exception applies to holders of certain state permits to possess, carry, or acquire firearms. The exception is permits issued within the past 5 years may qualify for a NICS exemption if certain requirements are satisfied. One of these is that the authority issuing the permit must conduct a NICS background check as part of the process and deny a permit to anyone who is prohibited from possessing firearms. NICS is efficient as it allows people already vetted by a NICS check to purchase firearms without delay and decreases the burden on the FBI system by reducing redundant checks. At the outset of COVID-19, the NICS system buckled under stress because of NICS checks being at an all-time high because of the volume of gun sales. For many, the NICS exemption is vital. Many law-abiding gun owners face significant background check delays every time they buy a firearm, despite being able to lawfully possess a firearm through no fault of their own. And an example of this is individuals can be delayed for having a similar name and or descriptive features such as social security number, place of birth, state of residence, as someone who is potentially state or federally prohibited. So as a result, these individuals are not prohibited, but because they have some identifying factor that makes them similar enough to someone who could potentially be prohibited, these law-abiding citizens are forced to experience lengthy delays before obtaining a firearm that they're lawfully able to acquire. In 2019, the NICS operation report said 10.5% of all NICS transactions in 2019 were delayed, while only 1.3% of those resulted in a denial, meaning that roughly 8.7 of them were actually law-abiding gun owners that faced these delays despite being able to legally possess and acquire firearms. For these reasons, we urge the committee to support LD 1286 on behalf of our members, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of Lauren LePage? Seeing none, I thank you. Oh, Senator Stairway.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One thing that was brought up was how some states are losing some privileges because of being a marijuana state. What's your thoughts on that with this bill?
So I think this bill just requires the state of Maine to apply to ATF to see if Maine qualifies for the exemption. Certainly ATF would then provide the state a yes or no on whether or not they qualify for the exemption, and may or may not provide the reasons why that is to be the case. So our position would be we encourage the state to apply for the exemption, but beyond that is a decision that ATF will have to make.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I now will recognize Andrea Mancuso. Hi, welcome, Andrea.
Good afternoon, Senator DeChambeau, members of the committee. My name is Andrea Mancuso. I'm here on behalf of the Maine Coalition to End Domestic Violence to ask you to vote ought not to pass on 1286. Concealed carry permits in Maine are good for 4 years. A lot can happen in that time. Background checks for all firearms sales are essential to ensuring our own statutes around prohibiting firearms from domestic violence perpetrators are appropriately enforced. Substituting a current and up-to-date background check with displaying a concealed carry permit that may have been issued to someone more than 3 years ago is a step in the wrong direction. Under both federal and a perpetrator of domestic violence who has a concealed carry permit could threaten their spouse with a firearm and be charged on Saturday, have a protection from abuse order issued against them on Monday that prohibits possession of firearms, and walk into a gun store on Tuesday morning to present their concealed carry permit obtained before they became a prohibited person and walk out with a firearm. If the committee would like to take action around concealed carry permits, we'd suggest in lieu of the original language, you would consider enacting a requirement that any holder of a concealed carry permit needs to disclose the fact of that permit when they're arraigned on charges that, if proven, would result in the person becoming a prohibited person, being subject to bail conditions that require no possession of a firearm, and being subject to a protection order that prohibits possession. And then together with this disclosure requirement, require the permit holder to relinquish their permit to the Department of Public Safety for the duration of the prohibition. Such an amendment would, in our view, be a step in the right direction. I would encourage you again to take a look at the recent 13th Biennium Homicide Review Report, which flags again that the state needs to do a better job at making sure that those who are prohibited from having firearms actually relinquish them and do not get possession of them. So we would encourage you not to support the state pursuing a waiver in this way. Happy to take any questions. Thanks for giving me the space to share our perspective.
Any questions of Ms. Mancuso? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
I now will recognize Jonathan Martell.
Good afternoon again. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm requesting that you support this bill. As a follow-up to some of the previous comments, as a concealed carry permit holder, if you do become a prohibited person, you are required to relinquish that, so that you would no longer be able to use that, regardless of whether you wanted to try to use that to purchase a firearm or not. You have to relinquish that to the issuing authority. I think that given a lot of the things that happened last year with NICS background checks being down multiple times, this would allow concealed carry permit holders, which have already passed an extensive background check, which goes beyond a standard NICS check, to be able to purchase a firearm, an additional firearm, or anything that they needed to purchase. So I would ask that you would support this bill and help preserve our rights. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martell. Any questions of Mr. Martell? Seeing none, thank you. Excuse me. The next person is Sergeant Tyler, and it's not Stephen. Representative Pickett has his hand up for Mr. Martell.
No, for you, Madam Chair. Are we doing in favor or opposed? 'Cause I think we're going back and forth there.
I know there was one I was going to double check on. I said this is in support. So we are in support.
Thank you.
Okay. Now thank you, Sergeant Stevenson. Your name just stopped at Stephen. I knew it had to be longer than that. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm going to be testifying in opposition, so you may want to let someone else go.
Let me just ask Sergeant for a second. Is there anyone in the attendee room that wishes to speak in support? Probably not.
Seeing no hands.
Excuse me?
Seeing no hands. Is this?
Thank you.
We going
Now I will welcome anyone who wishes to testify in opposition to enter the room, please. So I will turn it over to you, Sergeant Stevenson. Now we're into opposition.
Thank you very much. Bear with me, having some camera problems here. Senator DeChambeau, Representative Warren, and other distinguished members of the Joint Standing Committee on Criminal Justice and Public Safety. My name is Sergeant Tyler Stevenson, and I have provided written testimony on behalf of the Maine State Police and Department of Public Safety to testify in opposition to LD 1286, a resolve directing the Department of Public Safety to apply for an exemption from background checks for holders of concealed weapon permits. In the interest of time, I'll paraphrase some of my written testimony, which has been uploaded, hopefully for you to review. In 1998, the Brady Law established the National Instant Criminal Background Check System, or NICS, and required all federal firearms license dealers to conduct NICS checks on a customer before the transfer of a firearm can occur. The ATF administers a process for states to apply for a permanent Brady permit, allowing residents of the state who are in possession of a valid concealed handgun permit to use a concealed handgun permit as an alternative to a NICS check when transferring a firearm. The concealed handgun permit can be used as an alternative for 5 years from its issue date. Maine Department of Public Safety currently issues concealed handgun permits for all unorganized territories, approximately 360 towns in the state of Maine, and as well as all of the out-of-state concealed handgun permits. Municipalities with their own police departments issue their own permits. Towns that do not have a police department or a contract with the state may elect to have their permits processed and issued by town officials, like a town manager or other municipal officers. As a result, the concealed handgun permit application process can vary from town to town, and the design of the permit itself can vary throughout the state. In Maine, concealed handgun permits are valid for 4 years from the date of issue. It's very possible that an applicant could engage in conduct from the time the permit is issued to the renewal that makes it ineligible to hold a permit based on disqualifying conduct such as domestic violence offenses. However, the issuing authority who originally issued the permit would have no way of knowing that the permit comes up for renewal until the permit comes up for renewal and a background check is conducted. Meanwhile, the person could continue to use a permit as a way of bypassing the NICS process when purchasing a firearm from an FFL. We are concerned that this could result in people being able to possess firearms who should not have them for legitimate public safety reasons. Consider the scenario: subject is arrested for domestic assault, and result they have bail conditions that prohibit them from owning a firearm. The victim also takes out a protection order against the defendant that prohibits them from possessing or owning firearms. If he was in possession of a valid concealed handgun permit, he would be able to go to an FFL and bypass the NICS background check if the bill was passed as written. According to federal law, in order for a person to be exempt from a NICS check, they must present a valid concealed handgun permit issued by an authorized government official who has verified the person is not prohibited from possessing firearms under federal, state, or local law, including a NICS check. Our concealed handgun law does not require a NICS check when issuing a Maine concealed handgun permit. Furthermore, even if it was required, civilian issuing authorities in Maine, such as town managers and selectmen, don't have the same ability to request a NICS check or other criminal records checks. So on behalf of the State Police and Department of Public Safety, we appreciate your careful consideration of these issues, and thank you for your time.
Thank you for that information. Any questions of Sergeant Stevenson? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anyone in the attendee room wishing to speak neither for nor against? I'm skipping opposition. If you're here for opposition, you may come in and please clearly tell us you are opposed or neither for nor against.
Senator, can you just clarify whether we're doing testimony for both bills at once, or are we doing them separate?
You know what? I could have done both of them, but we're done this one. I'll go to the next one.
Okay.
I'm sorry
Great,
about
because
that.
there are people waiting.
Yes. Ms. Overton.
Yes, I'm not sure we did the supporters for LD 1446, did we?
No, I have not.
Okay,
That's
thank you.
what she was referring to. Yeah, I didn't start this, so I didn't, not finishing it correctly. I'm
Add
almost
lunch
done,
with cake
and then
in
we'll
there.
go back. Did everybody, I just sent an email to Ms. Mancuso. Was her testimony in support? It didn't sound like, it was opposition, wasn't it? Thank you very much for, I thought so too. So anybody who took notes on Ms. Mancuso, the testimony very much was in opposition, not in support. In support was Ms. LePage and Mr. Martell, and in opposition was Mancuso and Stevenson. Anyone else wishing to speak on this LD 1286, please raise your hand.
Seeing no hand, Senator.
Thank you. Therefore, a little different than I did the others. This one, the public hearing is closed on 1286. I now will gladly turn to LD 1446, an act to aid municipalities in the issuance of concealed handgun permits. And this was Representative Pluker's bill. I am looking for people who wish to testify in support of municipalities' issuance of concealed permits.
I'm bringing over 3 people.
Okay. Sergeant Stevenson, do you wish to testify on LD 1446?
No, Lieutenant Johnson will be.
Oh, okay. Now we're asking for people who wish to testify in support of 1446. So I have them here, and I will recognize Hillary Shende, followed by Camilla Shannon and Jeff Bickford. Welcome, Hillary.
Thank you, Senator Deschambault, Representative Warren, and members of the Criminal Justice and Public Safety Committee. My name is Hillary Shende from Brunswick. Thank you for hearing my testimony today. I am here to speak in favor of LD 1446. I'm grateful to Representative Pluker for bringing this bill to the attention of the committee because it addresses a gap that needs to be filled. Municipalities deserve to have access to the Department of Public Safety system so they can do proper background checks when processing concealed carry permits. This will help keep weapons out of the hands of people who should not have them and will give municipalities more confidence that they are issuing permits fairly. It's a sensible bill that provides an easy fix to an important problem. I urge you to pass it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Shende? Thank you again. Camilla Shannon, you wish to speak in support.
Yes. Senator DeChambeau, Representative Warren, and distinguished members of the Criminal Justice and Public Safety Committee. My name is Cam Shannon. I live in Yarmouth. I'm here today in support of LD 1446, an act to aid municipalities in the issuance of concealed carry permits. Mainers over the age of 18 with military training and otherwise over the age of 21 are allowed to carry a concealed weapon without a permit. However, some Mainers still choose to apply for a concealed carry permit, commonly called a CCW permit, at their local police station. CCW permits confer special benefits, including the right not to tell a police officer that you are carrying a handgun, as well as concealed carry reciprocity in 23 other states. This may partly explain the continued popularity and persistence of the permitting process. The permitting process requires the police station to have access to the Department of Public Safety, DPS, system. Without access, police stations are left Googling applicants to determine if they're legally allowed to carry a concealed weapon. Obviously, this is not a good way to keep weapons out of the wrong hands. Granting all Maine police departments access to the DPS system is an easy and important fix. We should not endanger the lives of law enforcement nor citizens in other states simply because certain Maine municipalities lack such access. Please vote ought to pass.
Thank you, Ms. Shannon. Any questions from Ms. Shannon? Seeing none, thank you. I now will, I don't think that's Jeff Bickford, but hi there.
Yeah, it's me again, Janice Cooper. Mr. Bickford had to go to an appointment and asked.
So we have the Honorable Janice Cooper on. There you go.
That's correct. Thank you very much, Senator. Senator DeChambeau, Representative Warren, and distinguished members of the Criminal Justice and Public Safety Committee. My name, I am reading his testimony. My name is Jeff Bickford, and I am Executive Director of the Maine Gun Safety Coalition. On behalf of our Board of Directors and thousands of supporters statewide, I urge you to vote ought to pass on LD 1446, an act to aid municipalities in the issuance of concealed handgun permits. We sincerely thank Representative Pfluger for bringing this crucial piece of legislation. Although not required in Maine, concealed carry permits in the state come with some privileges, chief among them reciprocity with 23 other states. So if we're going to have concealed carry permit program, we darn well better do it right. We owe it to the people of Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Delaware, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Michigan, Missouri, Nebraska, New Hampshire, North Carolina, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, Utah, Virginia, and Wyoming to get it right. And getting it right doesn't mean municipal officials using Google to determine if, in a state already bereft of local news coverage in much of its geographical expanse, there is a news story about an applicant that touches upon their fitness for the permit. Getting it right means using the official channels, resources, databases, and other tools available to other municipalities in the Department of Public Safety. This is a simple fix. Whatever towns don't have access to DPS assistance, with some votes over the next few weeks and a stroke of Governor Penn, now do. There's another group of people to whom we owe this to get it right: law enforcement in Maine. Another privilege of having a concealed carry license is that upon interaction with law enforcement, if you are carrying a firearm in a concealed fashion, you don't have to inform the officer of the fact. Don't we owe it to them to make sure that the permits are properly issued? I thank you for your attention and welcome any questions on behalf of Mr. Bickford.
Any questions at all? Okay, Senator Seaway.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hey, good afternoon. How you doing? Representative Cooper. So just got a question. Who's going to pay for it to have this done? I mean, it would cost quite a bit to do that. Right now, the Academy, I think their budget's like 2.1 million. Probably have to add another 1 or 2 million to do that. So how would you,
Well,
who would pay for it?
taxpayers, it'll be the responsibility, I gather, of the Department of Public Safety to provide this service. So it'll have to come out of their budget.
All right, thank you.
If I could just add on a personal note, this was one of the very first issues that came up when I was elected. And at that time, I remember the big issue, for me at least, was the total chaos, total inconsistency among the ways municipalities handled these permit requests. There was no consistency, no central place for putting the permits. Some towns stored them in their basement, some in the police chief's office. It was really no uniformity, and I hope that this bill will bring about that kind of uniformity. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
And I'm sorry I don't have a gift for you.
I know, we're expecting a lot of gifts once we're.
I owe you a lot. Yeah.
You're not the only one. Okay. Thank you. I will now recognize Chris Campbell. This is in support, okay?
Yeah, yes, this is in support.
Thank you.
Senator DeChambeau, Representative Warren, and distinguished members of the Criminal Justice and Public Safety Committee. I'm Chris Campbell from Belfast, and I'm testifying in favor of LD 1446. The importance of this bill is that it provides for background checks for people with concealed handgun permits, so that people who are prohibited from owning a firearm are not allowed to do so. Like any background check for gun ownership, this bill protects Maine citizens as well as citizens of other states that afford reciprocity for Mainers with concealed handgun permits. It also offers additional protection to police in Maine. So I strongly urge you to pass this very worthwhile bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell, for doing that in 15 seconds. Thank you. Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Campbell? Thank you. Now, anyone else? Jonathan Martell.
Hello again, I'm Jonathan Martell from Sanford. I am in favor of this bill, and I would just like to note that part of the previous discussion was around some of the gaps that this bill will fill in regarding some of the variation in the ability for municipalities to be able to perform an NICS background check. Right now, most municipalities that have a police department are able to perform that background check, such as Sanford, where I am. They've been able to do that here. Some of the smaller municipalities will use the state police and have used the state police for quite some time. I was not aware of any localities that kind of fell in between there, but apparently that's where this is trying to fill in. And I think it definitely makes sense for that gap to be filled. So I'm supporting this, and I'm hoping that with this bill in support filling in these gaps, that will also help with the previously mentioned bill. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I don't see any questions, any hands raised. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in support, please raise your hand.
Seeing no hands.
Thank you. If you wish to speak in opposition of this bill 1446, please raise your hand.
I'll
and
be
we will let
bringing two people over.
Thank you. Good. I will recognize Ms. Graham, Rebecca Graham.
Thank you, Senator DeChambeau, Representative Warren, and distinguished members of Maine's Criminal Justice Committee. My name is Rebecca Graham, and I am here representing Maine Municipal Association at the request of our 70-member Legislative Policy Committee. We were actually quite startled to understand that there are municipalities without police departments that were pursuing issuing concealed weapons permits. A police investigative involvement in conducting these background checks is paramount, not only to ensuring the concealed carry permits are thoroughly vetted before being used, but also to protect and the respect issued, the respect around those permits as they are issued between other states and federal agencies who see Maine's or process as being robust and trustworthy. Municipal police, as well as the state police, spend a considerable amount of time reviewing the records that aren't available to municipal officials, such as health data and records of police interactions that may call into question an applicant's character. And while that's rare, a really robust approach with chief's final authority and retention of those records reviewed so that they can be reviewed during future renewals provides that applicant extended rights that aren't available elsewhere. I provided in my testimony an example of a municipal police process, including releases that are sent to a number of mental health facilities, as well as probate court and the Veterans Administration. And it takes time for that information to come back. This is not an overnight process. This is not a one-hit type of task. It's a very labor-intensive type of task, depending upon all of the information that that applicant provides to the police department, and is pretty intense. And all of those records are only available, or many of those records are only available to law enforcement. And it's important that they be retained in a confidential manner as well. So the records review process can take months sometimes because police really need to wait for those responses to come back from all of those multiple entities. And municipal officials believe that it's reasonable to ask the state to be an issuing authority for municipalities and communities without a police department through the existing or the previous memorandum of understanding process. However, the state also needs to be provided adequate staffing to fulfill that task, or increase the fee proportional to the effort to fund the task at all levels. Officials don't believe that a process should be watered down to create a third process outside of a law enforcement agency because of the unintended consequences for the acceptance of that permit with neighboring states. They also don't want to relinquish the authority of their local municipal police departments to be conducting or reviewing those permits. What's most paramount is that we don't create an inferior credentialing system that undermines the benefits of the vast majority of communities that are using law enforcement under that currently. So for those reasons, we ask that you vote ought not to pass on 1446.
Thank you, Ms. Graham. Representative Pluker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just in recognition, this is my bill. I want to make sure I'm only asking clarifying questions here. So the intent of this bill is that the municipalities that have no access to police departments have a chance to ask the state police for help in doing this very thorough background check that you're referring to. And so that was the intent of the bill, is that this stays with the law enforcement community. And because currently, like in my town, it is where we have no access to law enforcement to help us with that background check. Is that your understanding of my bill as well, of the bill as well?
It is, Representative Pluker, and the concerns that we would have is that we know that that particular department has lost staff as a result of our open carry law, and that needs to be rectified, I think, as well. And the final issuing authority, we want to make sure also gets retained with that entity. So those are the pieces that are most concerning for us, not necessarily creating that outside third.
Thank you. Follow up, Madam Chair.
Go right ahead. Yep.
it was the full intent of this bill, and my reading of it, it meets that intent, but perhaps there needs to be clarifying language. What the towns should remain the issuing authorities, but as the issuing authorities, they had the right to request help. And so if we were to clarify that the towns remain the issuing authorities and not anybody else, and if we were to add a fiscal note to this bill to properly staff the state police, would you be potentially less opposed to the bill, or MMA be less opposed to the bill?
Thank you, Representative Pluker. I think the issue is that within municipal police departments that are running those background checks and the towns that already have the MOU with the state for this, it is the state that is the final authority. And that's also important. Or it is the police department that is that final issuing authority. And we think that gives the municipal officials the appeals process protections that are necessary. So we would actually lean more towards whoever those municipalities chose to contract with being that final issuing authority.
I'm confused, but I don't want to take up too much time.
I'm following you, Representative Pluker. I want to ask Ms. Graham a question. You used the word that your policy committee was startled that there were some towns that did that. Then I just heard you say there are some communities, some towns that have MOUs with other agencies to do that for them. Is that what the MOU is?
We know, like my town, for instance, Edgecombe does not have a police department. And prior to, I believe, the open carry law, entered into an MOU with the Department of Public Safety to conduct and issue those background checks on the town's behalf. And
okay.
I believe, and Lieutenant Johnson will follow up with the data around the number of towns,
Sure.
Significant number.
But it also begs the question, did your policy committee realize that they probably should investigate a little further or get more information from towns that don't have MOUs?
I think that would be considered my job, Senator DeChambeau, to bring that.
Okay. Sorry about that. But,
No.
Good. All right. Well, they just tell you what they want done, right? Okay. Thank you. Geez, the more we ask, the deeper we get. Okay. I don't see any other questions. And Lieutenant Johnson, I guess you're going to be the answer man here. So please, with your testimony.
Thank you, Senator. Good afternoon, committee. Senator DeChambeau, Representative Warren, and other distinguished members of the Joint Standing Committee on Criminal Justice and Public Safety. As you know, my name is Lieutenant Michael Johnston, and I'm here to represent the Maine State Police and the Maine Department of Public Safety to testify in opposition to LD 1446. This bill would create a compulsory process by requiring that the Chief of the State Police, upon request, shall provide assistance in conducting a background check to a municipal issuing authority that has not designated the Chief of the State Police the authority under this section. So a little bit of kind of history to give a little bit of context on some of the things you've heard about today. Let me be clear, we don't object to the concept of this bill. We believe strongly in upholding the integrity of the concealed handgun permitting process. The state police already fully cooperates with all requests for information and background checks from our fellow police departments who issue concealed handgun permits. It is my understanding from conversations with the bill's sponsor that the intention of this bill is to assist those municipalities that don't have the benefit of having their own police department with conducting background checks. So pursuant to Maine law under section 2002, we issue and regulate concealed handgun permits for residents of unorganized territories, non-residents, licensed professional investigators who wish to carry firearm in the course of their duties, and for over 360 Maine towns. We currently maintain about 41,000 concealed handgun permits. The state police does. The work is conducted by 4 people within the state police, a sergeant, a detective, and 2 administrative assistants who, in addition to their permitting responsibilities, have other duties related to the processing of professional licenses. For municipalities in Maine, other municipalities, the issuing authority is the mayor, the municipal officers or councilors of the city, or at their designation, if they have a full-time police department, their chief. There is a provision under Maine law that is cited in this bill whereby we will take over the complete issuing authority responsibilities upon mutual agreement with the town. If they request it and we assent to it, we'll take it over. We used to enter into these agreements as a matter of course, but we made a policy decision to stop doing this with the passage of Public Law 2015, Chapter 327, which is an act to authorize the carrying of concealed handguns without a permit. This law, among other things, stripped 3 positions from the Maine State Police. While we felt it was right to honor all existing agreements we had entered into before the law went into effect, we stopped the practice moving forward of entering into any new agreements so we could make sure that we could responsibly handle the over 40,000 permits we are already responsible for. I know I'm running short on time and my remarks have been uploaded, but we have concerns about assisting non-law enforcement issuing authorities with background checks and how that could be accomplished both legally and logistically. State and federal law prohibits non-law enforcement personnel from possessing and viewing certain types of records. Given these legal restrictions, we don't believe we could provide sufficiently detailed information to the municipality so they can make an informed and legally defensible decision without violating these laws. You also have some issues related to the Maine Administrative Procedure Act if you deny or revoke a permit. We also have concern about the workload and capacity to handle what this might bring in. The language of the bill, while I understand it may not be the intention, it does not limit these requests to only those municipalities without a police department. So if a police department were at some point to ask us to take over their background process, that may create an additional workload. And also, I think it's important to point out that there is a statutory responsibility for issuing authorities to issue permits or make a decision within a certain specified period of time, 30 days for residents, 60 days for non-residents. So the clock starts ticking when you essentially receive the application. So with these, for these reasons in mind, I urge you to vote ought not to pass on LD 1446. And obviously, I'd be happy to answer any questions now or continue to work with the bill's sponsor in the committee at the work session.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I did let you go over since the information you were providing was all new information we need. So Representative Pluker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So if we were to come up with a system where you could advise the municipalities without divulging private information, and we were able to come up with a way to give you some assistance in issuing these permits, would that deal with most of your opposition to the bill?
No, it wouldn't. And the only reason it wouldn't is, I suppose, speaking in the abstract, you might say, well, it would take away that opposition. I don't know how that could be done. So, you think of a red light, green light system where red light means you can issue. We've got information that we know this disqualifies this person from having a permit. So trust us, just deny it. What follows when you deny someone a permit, depending on if it's a new application or renewal, is procedures under the Maine Administrative Procedure Act, where they could have an adjudicatory hearing or they could file an appeal under Maine Civil Rules of Procedure 80B. And in those letters, you have to cite with some specificity the nature of the denial. Also, some denials are discretionary, not mandatory, meaning that the issuing authority doesn't have to deny, but they have a discretionary ability to deny, in which case they may look at all the information and make a decision. A person has had an OUI 3 years ago. That is not an automatic basis for a denial, but it could be a discretionary basis for the denial based on that issuing authority's criteria. So if they don't have that information, I'm not sure how they could make that decision and then follow up in a legally defensible way so they're complying with Title V, Chapter 375 under MAP.
Thank you. Madam Chair, could I ask another question?
Yes, and then I'll go to Representative Pickett, if I may. Go right ahead.
Thank you. So Lieutenant Johnson, so really what we would need is to come up with a situation where you could enter into an MOU with some of these municipalities to cover that, but that at the same time provide you with the staffing so that you could continue to accept those MOUs. Is that correct?
I would say generally that's correct, Representative Pluker, although I realize the position here is not whether we should be the sole issuing authority. I will say that how it worked previously when we took over as issuing authority has worked well because we continue to do it for those towns, provided we have the adequate staffing and resources to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Pickett?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. Thank you for being here, Lieutenant Johnson.
Yes, sir.
I think you partially answered my question that I had, but I'll ask it anyways, and hopefully it's not a duplication. The question I have is, under the provision under Maine law in 25 MRSA 2002A, when you folks took over issuing authority responsibilities with towns upon a mutual agreement between the chief and the requesting town. First part of my question is, those towns that you had an agreement with, when you stop doing this, are you still doing that service for those towns?
Yes, sir. We honored all those agreements. We felt that was the right thing to do.
Okay, my second part of that question is, did every town in the state have that opportunity to do that at the time?
So I think your question is, before we stopped doing that, did we give like a last chance notice for towns to say, if you would like us to take over, you can?
Well, that may be, but I guess when that law went into effect, that MRS 25 MRS 202-A, when that went into effect, did every municipality that did not have a police department that wanted you folks to do the permits, all of them had a chance to reach out to enter into that agreement at that time? Is that correct?
Yes, sir, they did. Yes, they did.
Okay, so then if they didn't do that, those are the towns that are, unfortunately, those are the towns that you cannot take up now at this time, correct?
Correct, sir. You're right. That's correct.
And those are the major reason for it is staffing.
Yes, sir. The staffing is, I would say, the single biggest obstacle.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome, sir.
Lieutenant Johnson, it's probably a pie in the sky kind of request or thought. With the sheriff's department, we've got 16 counties. Would the sheriff's department be able to assist their own counties that are with small towns with those kinds of reports? I mean, to have 15 people instead of 2 or 3 up in the Maine State Police.
Sure. I wouldn't want to be so bold as to speak for each individual sheriff. I don't know that, although I think it's fair to say that some of the same legal restrictions that I'm speaking of would apply equally to them as it does to us.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Lieutenant Johnson? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone in the attendee room want to speak in opposition or not? Neither for nor against?
Seeing no hands.
Thank you. Therefore, I will close the meeting of 1446. I hope I have the right one. Yes. Closed. Thank you very much. So we will then, our last one of public hearing, excuse me, is 884. And that is, I don't believe Representative Stewart is here, but I think someone will be taking his place. An act to ban the surveillance of firearm purchases.
Yes, Senator Scott Searway here. I'm going to be doing it for him.
Okay, go right ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm Senator Scott Searway, and I'll be reading this for Senator Trey Stewart, and I'll be using his language. So, so Senator DeChambeau, Representative Warren, and members of the Joint Standing Committee on Criminal Justice and Public Safety. I'm Senator Trey Stewart, and I have the honor of representing 51 communities in Aroostook and Penobscot counties. I'm before you today to present testimony on LD 884, an act to ban surveillance of firearm purchases. As this committee has discussed numerous pieces of gun-related legislation this session, you all have no doubt familiarized yourself with the allegations against the Maine Information Analysis Center, or MIAC, which were made last year. the allegations included that this agency was monitoring and keeping records of firearm purchases made by law-abiding citizens and keeping that data, effectually creating a de facto gun registration. If someone has a criminal record or is a suspect in an ongoing investigation, this information could be beneficial. However, the allegations stated that the agency was collecting and indefinitely retaining information on those who have purchased firearms, and that action violates both state and federal law. As a response to the concerns that I had heard from my constituents and individuals around the state, I filed this bill. Subsequently, I have had multiple productive conversations with representatives from the agency, some of whom are here today and you will hear from shortly. With their input, I have crafted an amendment to this original bill, which I believe will allow for the MIAC to continue to operate and its stated purpose for sharing critical information to prevent crimes and acts of terrorism domestically. To be sure, ensuring that law enforcement can do their job to keep us and our communities safe is critical. Balancing this interest with our constitutionality, protected liberties is also an important interest. This amendment accomplishes both goals. While there is ongoing litigation involving the agency and the individual who made the allegations, I do not want to speculate as to the ultimate outcome of that litigation here today. I do think, however, that this is an important area worth addressing, and I hope that these committees will consider the proposed amendment and ultimately support final passage of the amended version of this bill. In addition to living in a low crime state, the Maine Constitution explicitly states that individuals have the right to keep and bear arms. Tracking and monitoring law-abiding citizens for a purchase that they have made takes away from the individual's privacy and could put the individual in harm's way if the information were to ever be leaked or hacked, which isn't out of the question in an ever-increasing technological world and with ever-growing data security concerns. Striking the middle ground on this bill, which I believe the attached amendment will do, will reassure the public that MIAC and the state of Maine is working diligently to protect both their safety as well as their constitutional rights. Thank you for your time and support of this important legislation. And I'm sure that you'll be able to hear some answers to any questions from the people that you'll be hearing from, since I'm not real familiar of what his amendment does.
Thank you. Did you mention there is an amendment?
Yes, and I believe it's been sent. I can double check if it's not, if you don't have it.
I have it and can screen share it if you want.
That'd be great.
Thank you.
And can someone also email that amendment to us as well? Thank you.
Can you do that, Deb?
Yeah, just a sec. I have too many
Great,
windows open.
Kind of hard to, oh, great. Thank you.
Whoa.
I'm going to get a magnifying glass next time.
Right.
Okay. It's pretty much what he testified.
Yep.
So Ms. Fahey, will you be sending that, or Ms. Overton to us? Ms. Overton will send that?
I just sent it, and I apologize for the confusion this causes, but I can't send you an amendment for a sponsor or someone who asked me to write an amendment until they tell me to do so.
Okay.
So sometimes I don't get permission to send it. I would love to send it to you originally, but not without permission.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good to know. Good to know. Thank you. All right, so I will now ask if there are people who wish to come forward and testify in support of this bill. I see that you're here, Lieutenant Johnson. Do you wish to testify in support?
I will be, Senator, I'll be testifying in opposition to the bill as
Okay.
drafted.
All right, sir. I will now ask, Ms. Fahey, you have let some people in, so I've got Lauren LePage, Jonathan Martell, and Ann Perry.
I think,
Thank you.
I think Ann Perry is opposed. Sorry.
Okay.
Grabbed the wrong person.
So those in support. I don't want to be confused here. Ms. LePage, you are in support, and Mr. Martell, correct? So I will go to Ms. LePage.
Great, thank you. And I swear this is the last time the committee has to hear from me today. Senator DeChambeau, Representative Warren, and honorable members of the committee. My name is Lauren LePage, and I'm here on behalf of the NRA as the state director for Maine, and we are in full support of LD 884. Full disclosure, I have not had time to analyze the amendment, but will review that amendment. So my testimony is based on the original content of the bill. LD 884 prohibits the Department of Public Safety from retaining any information or data concerning firearm purchases within the activities performed by their Information Analysis Center. Allegations made against the department over the past year have alleged that the Maine Information and Analysis Center has stored applications to purchase firearms within the center, contrary to current law. Maine State Police maintain a database that has access to determine if a person is prohibited from purchasing a firearm. Under current law, applications to purchase firearms are supposed to be destroyed after a sale is approved. When applications are not destroyed, the government can create a de facto gun registry, contrary to state and federal law. Gun registration is illegal, and we do not believe will increase public safety and jeopardizes the privacy of law-abiding gun owners. For this reason, on behalf of NRA's members, we are requesting the committee support LD 884 and protect the privacy of law-abiding Mainers. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of Ms. LePage? Thank you. Seeing none, I now go to Jonathan Martell.
Hello again. Thank you for a few minutes to speak. I am in support of LD 884. I ask you to support LD 884 as it serves to protect the rights and privacy of individuals not under current investigation. It also strengthens compliance to existing law prohibiting a firearm registry in Maine. The current law basically says that Maine cannot have or keep records, which is essentially a registry of privately owned firearms within Maine. And it's also a federal law that these records cannot be kept. So this is just a clarification, and I ask you to support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Martell? Seeing none. Anyone want to, yes, testify in support? Please raise your hand. If not, I will go to the next group.
Seeing no more hands.
Thank you. I now will ask for testimony in opposition.
I'm bringing Mr. Johnson back.
Okay. Hello again, Lieutenant Johnson.
Well, I apologize for the double dose. Good afternoon, everyone, again. Senator DeChambeau, Representative Warren, and other distinguished members of this committee. My name is Lieutenant Michael Johnston. I'm here to represent the state police to testify in opposition to LD 884, an act to ban surveillance of firearm purchase. The bill as currently drafted states that the Department of Public Safety may not retain any information or data concerning firearm purchases obtained from any activity of the department involving the collection, analysis, and timely dissemination of information concerning suspected or actual terrorist acts and criminal activity. Before I address the potential impacts of this bill, I feel I should take some time to recognize and address some of the concerns that are underlying it. It is my understanding from speaking with the bill sponsor that the genesis of this bill is due in large part to the accusations made against the MIAC regarding the alleged illegal collection and storage of lawful firearm purchases and sales in Maine. Let me be clear, the Maine State Police and MIAC do not maintain a firearms registry. We are in full compliance with Title 25, Section 2014. We do not maintain lists of lawful firearm purchases. I can help explain our process by telling you how the Department of Public Safety is involved in ensuring the integrity of the firearms background check process. The Maine State Police complies with the federal law regarding background checks anytime we received a request for information from the FBI's National Instant Criminal Background Check Unit, also known as NICS. We are only contacted by NICS when an individual attempts to purchase a firearm from a federally licensed firearms dealer, and that person has a record in their background that could potentially prohibit them from owning or possessing a firearm. That includes, but is not limited to, felony convictions, domestic violence convictions, or status as a criminal gang member. NICS is required to reach out to the agency that may have information on that person to ensure they are not legally prohibited from possessing a firearm. We comply with the law by providing any responsive information to NICS. Maine is referred to as a NICS non-point of contact state. Conversely, point of contact states serve between the NICS and the state's federal licensed firearms dealer, an intermediary. The FFL conducting business in these PO states contact a state designated agency to initiate all background checks. POC states, which again, Maine is not one of them, have awareness and visibility on all firearm transactions that occur within the state. Again, we do not collect information on lawful firearm purchases. The Department of Public Safety, to include the MIAC, would only be in possession of this information in connection with our responses to NICS, a criminal investigation, or suspected violation of law. To put some of this in context, historically, MIAC only received approximately 20 of these requests from NICS each year, compared to the tens of thousands of firearm transactions that occur in Maine each year. The bill's broad language would place significant restrictions on the ability of law enforcement to obtain and share information related to criminal investigations and public safety. It would affect a broad range of investigations to include domestic violence, violent crimes, and potential domestic terrorism. It would also affect our ability to share information related to investigations into Maine's protection from substantial threats, known as the Weapons Restriction Law, pursuant to Title 34B, Section 3862. The bill as written would hamper law enforcement and affect public safety. I should like to point out we have had productive discussions with Senator Stewart on this bill regarding the proposed amendment. For these reasons, I urge you to vote ought not to pass on LD 884 as drafted. On behalf of the state police and public safety, I'd certainly be happy to answer any questions you have and continue to work with the sponsor in the committee at the work session. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Warren.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Lieutenant Johnston, excuse me. You said you've had conversations with Senate Stewart over the amendment. Please vote against the original bill. Do you support the amended bill?
Yes, we do, Representative Warren. Yes, we do.
So once he's brought forward an amendment, you're then asking us to vote ought to pass as amended.
Yes, if the amendment is brought forward, and that is something the committee is considering, yes, we do support it, and we would support that position by the committee.
Thank you. I appreciate that clarification. And just a quick question.
Sure.
So as we talked about here today, you do wear these dual hats.
I do.
You work with concealed handgun permits and you direct MIAC. But what you're saying is that that information doesn't ever cross over. Can you
No.
talk more about that?
Sure. So you're right. I do wear two different hats. I oversee the MIAC, and the other one is overseeing the Division of Weapons and Professional Licensing, which does issue concealed handgun permits and deals with some other licensing and some other firearm and weapons matters. But the MIAC, in terms of them kind of cross-pollinating, information is shared within the state police, within different bureaus and departments, but it's related to investigation of unlawful or criminal activity. And that's the only way that we share information. And the weapons unit doesn't have visibility on firearm purchases. We issue concealed handgun permits, and we deal with some other weapons related matters, but that unit doesn't have visibility, is not involved with all firearm purchases or transactions. And MIAC was only involved with it to the extent that we had information based on what NICS was seeing when they ran someone, that they thought we might have information that could help them make a decision on whether they should complete that transaction. So I guess that's a long way of saying we certainly share information where it's appropriate within the state police, whether it's my unit and the field troops or the major crimes units or the weapons and professional licensing unit, but it has to be related to the law and necessary to perform our job. And that's related to, investigation of unlawful or criminal activity.
Thank you. May I have just a very quick follow-up, Madam Chair?
Yes, go right ahead.
Do you collect information of gun owners that have broken laws?
We would have, if we do an investigation, the state police, if they're doing an investigation on someone who has broken a law and they conduct investigation, there'd certainly be a record of that.
So do you have sort of a collection of data of folks who've broken laws and also own guns?
Yes, it certainly could be a possibility where someone has broken a law and they're in the basic example is you're in possession of firearm as a prohibited person, or you've attempted to purchase a firearm as a prohibited person. And if an investigation is conducted, there would be a record of that, a police report. It would be in the state police records management system.
Okay, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Lieutenant Johnston? Seeing none, thank you, Lieutenant Johnson.
Thank you.
I can't remember. I guess I did ask for those in support. Anyone else wish to testify? In support?
You're on opposition, Madam
Yeah.
Chair.
And yes, I'm sure. In opposition, thank you. Seeing none? Oh, Jonathan Martell, did you testify? I thought you did.
He already did.
Favor?
Yeah.
He did.
Yes, I did. Thank
did.
you.
Okay, yes, he did. One more time, anyone wish to testify neither for nor against this LD?
Seeing no
All right,
hands.
we're all set. I therefore will close the discussion on LD public hearing on 884. Thank you. Now we wear somewhat of a different hat. This is not for the public unless they are invited in. We have 3 bills that are a work session for a vote. Representative Warren, is there a particular order or just follow this order?
Could we start with LD 967?
Yeah.
I know the sponsor, Representative Perry, is here.
Good. All right.
Great, thank you.
Yes, we will start with LD 967, and the title of which is an act to make possession of scheduled drugs for personal use a civil penalty. And the sponsor, Representative Van Perry, is with us. And I guess we do have some information. We have an amendment. Does everybody have the amendment? Have you seen it, read it? Ms. Overton, we don't have anything in. We also have presented the position of CLAC, the questions or concerns that CLAC has about this bill. So these are documents that should be before you. Ms. Overton, did you have something to say?
No, I just wanted to bring to your attention both of those documents. Representative Perry presented her amendment at the public hearing, and the CLAC amendment memo came in after the public hearing.
After the public hearing.
Yes, but I think I sent it out to you this morning anyway.
Yep, thank you.
That's all I have.
I want to ask if anyone has any questions or concerns about that, and Senator Seaway.
Sponsor? Could the sponsor?
Oh,
maybe.
Oh, I kept looking at her, and I'm sorry, I didn't. I should have recognized you. Yes, hi, Representative Perry. Is there something you want to begin with on this work session? Oh, you're muted. Yeah, thank you.
Probably better that I am. But I will say, since the bill has been presented, I've received a great deal of phone calls of support. And also there was a very good editorial in the Bangor Daily News that supported the aim of this legislation. Just wanted to add a little.
Thank you. Senator Seaway?
Madam Chair, thank you. I was just checking with Representative Perry if there was some rumor that they were going to table it and work on something on this, and I didn't know if that was true or not. Just asking the question.
Well, is that any different than what Ms. Overton said, that the sponsor did submit her testimony at the time of the public hearing, is that hers or whatever? We did get an amendment to that.
Okay, well, I guess it must have been just something I thought I heard earlier, but
No.
okay.
Well, I'm going to come in. This bill is extremely important to me.
Yeah.
And I am willing to talk with anyone who wants to work with me on this bill. And I hope to be able to have time to do that.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Representative Warren.
Do we have anybody from the administration here, or do we have Roy McKinney or anyone with us today, or from the administration?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. It was quite low.
Oh, sorry. Do we have anybody from the administration here?
I guess that's they must have heard that. I don't know. And someone else you thought of?
Well, I mean, we had the Attorney General at the public hearing. We had the district attorneys at the public hearing. We had the administration. Is anybody here to help us work that we can ask questions of? Do we know?
That I don't know. So unless, would I see that? Not in participants, no. Representative Pickett, followed by Representative Lookner.
Yes, Madam Chair. I don't want to cut off anybody from talking, but I think at some point here in the very few moments where here I will be asking for a tabling motion on this bill, but like I said, I do not want to cut anybody off from asking a question, but I wanted to just make that known.
Representative Lookner.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative Pickett. And Representative Perry, you know, I'm very supportive of this effort. I think one thing that CLAC did bring up that I think we need to take a look at is just determining the amounts of what, you know, what threshold we're determining. You know, I don't know if that's something you've taken a look at or how other states that have gone this route have adopted, you know, certain amounts for each of these scheduled substances, but that's something I think that needs to be included. I don't know your thoughts on that.
Oh, I agree with the people I've talked to before that there does need to be something, and that's where negotiation will come on. Because I think for law enforcement to be able to do the work they need to do, they have to have a definition they can work with. And I was hoping, quite honestly, to see some of the administration here so we could begin a process. So I'm rather disappointed.
I think I specifically, I don't think I'm 100% rock solid sure that I asked for folks to be at the work session.
I'm glad you brought that up, Representative Lookner, because I read CLAC with interest, and when I read that about the amount of the certain drugs, it was reminded of 1492? And I never felt comfortable with that. It just seemed, you know, the title of or the designation of every drug is for me scary enough that that's listed. The amount was never really cleared, and I think that was a question I had on this one. And also, CLAC brought up an interesting point. I'll read it. They noted the practical impossibility of the court ordering someone to a licensed healthcare provider or program to conduct a certain assessment. They do it with mental health issues. I was wondering, I wanted to know more about that. I still have a lot of not specific questions, just concerns, and I wish there's more discussion. Frankly, the people who want to hear, damned if they do, damned if they don't, because this is a discussion, and if we were to pass this, there would be people who are opposing it complaining. And if we didn't pass it, many people did testify in support. So,
we could just pass it today.
Excuse me?
Just joking. I said we could just pass it since the 3 people in the world that we're here to oppose it haven't shown up. Why don't we just, that was a joke. I just could not help myself. It's a little frustrating.
Maybe it won't pass. So
I have my hand up.
Yes, go right ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The good Representative Perry and I serve on the SUD Commission, and we've tried to be at a lot of meetings. I know different things have kept us away from it, but I share her concerns. We have some real issues in our state surrounding the opioid crisis and addiction and these type of things. And I think all of us on this committee, I believe, really want to do something and have something come out of this bill that is going to be a win-win for all. But I think there's more work that needs to be done on it. And I've reached out and set something up with information, and obviously the bill sponsor is certainly invited to that as well. And I hope that we can come up to a consensus at that time to come back in a work session at a later date where we can sit down and come up with our goal is to come up with a bipartisan bill that we can pass out of committee and say at the end of the day that we did everything we could do to try to deal with this issue with this bill. And I would at this time, and unless the sponsor would like to talk again, I would make a motion. I will wait to see if she would like to speak first.
First of all, I want to thank you for the opportunity. We need to discuss. We need to get a better definition. I knew that with the bill. And so anything that we can do to work to come up with something that is workable and bipartisan, I would be more than glad to participate in.
Thank you very much, Representative. And I, at this time, would make a motion to table.
I'll second.
Who seconds? Stairway?
Yeah.
Stairway? It's been moved and seconded.
Maybe
No
we can
discussion
also
on the tape.
vote
Excuse
this
me?
way. Could we just vote this way without calling the roll, if everyone agrees?
Thank you for that suggestion. Yes. All those in favor of tabling, please raise your hand. There, everybody's hands up. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Perry.
Thank you.
The next one is, I don't know if you want to, it's 539. An act to require law enforcement agencies to do a thorough background check of applicant officers and to require the release of records, including sealed records, to the requesting agency. We also have, we will discuss them separately, I guess. I'm not sure, but we do have a comparison that Ms. Overton put together between the two. So I'll just throw out 573 as an act concerning the records of employment of law enforcement officers and corrections officers. So we have the sponsor here for LD 539, which is Senator Mermont. So we can begin with that. Welcome, Senator Mermont. Would you like to make a comment or?
I'll just be here to hear the wisdom of the committee and answer a question if I can. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Representative Pickett.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for being here, Senator. A question I would have is we left this bill and the accompanying bill from Representative Corey for you folks to get together and talk with people about. Have you folks had that conversation? And are you aware whether or not there's some kind of an amendment or a bill that is shaken out of that conversation, sir?
No, I did not hear that part from the discussion that time. I don't know if it was one of those where I was disconnected or not. There's been a few, but no, I hadn't heard about putting a group together. Be glad to be part of it, but nope.
No, it wasn't a group. It was we asked the two bill sponsors to work together, and I think work with the I believe it was the director of the Criminal Justice Academy, but I'm not sure. I really don't know at this point. But at the public hearing, we asked you folks to do that. That's why we tabled this in the first place, the first time.
No, missed that one.
I'll follow up on that because that was the same type of question or concern I had, Senator Mermont. I don't think you have seen what our policy analysts put together. It was a side-by-side comparison of what your bill says and what Representative Corey's bill says. I must say to you that I saw a little bit I liked on each bill, and that usually gives you some idea of marrying the two. So I recall a discussion. It's unfortunate. I guess we're also busy. Normally, we would have told both of you to get together and carry that through. So having said that, if that's still the intent of the committee, I don't know if we should continue doing one and then doing the other. I have a feeling, I just don't know how you feel about that. And Senator Mamlott, you have your hand up?
Yes, so Senator, I put these in because of something that needs to get done, not because I need the recognition. If you want to use Representative Corey's or anything else, as long as you can solve the problem, it makes no difference to me. And I'm sorry I missed that about a group. I would have been excited about that. So I didn't hear that one. Not a group, I'm sorry. The word was get together with the sponsors and work that out. I would have jumped on that.
Okay, Representative Warren?
Well, I'm of two minds, so I guess I'll throw this out and see what the committee thinks. On one hand, I kind of feel like we're going to be working bills next week. Would we want, does the senator have time and inclination to work with Representative Corey and Director Desjardins to get us something that everybody agrees on? That's my first mind. My second mind is, do we as a committee sort of go through this spreadsheet or, side by side and decide on what parts we like? And maybe, whoever bill has the most parts we like, we use their vehicle. That's maybe a little snide, but we could either do it ourselves or have the sponsors work on it together. And I'm open. I just think those are two different suggestions.
Okay. Let me see for a minute. I will recognize Senator Serway, followed by Representative Pickett.
I think rather than us guessing what would work, if we just let them have the time and work with Director Desjardins, I think they could come out with a pretty good package. We could take a look at it then, and I think that'd probably be the best way.
Representative Pickett?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I agree with that.
If you're going to make a motion to table or something, Representative Warren, I just want to make a comment, but go ahead.
No, I'm not going to make a motion yet. I wanted to make sure from Director Desjardins that he was also on board with meeting with them. I didn't want to volunteer him, and he is here. So if we could bring him over out of just politeness.
Yes, as he's coming over, Director Desjardins, I do want to make clear on some things. During the discussion on both bills, but especially Representative Corey's bill that includes correctional officers, the question was polygraph. And then at the end, I believe, Representative.
He knows that. He's got the answer to that. Jeez.
Excuse me? I didn't hear what he had to say.
We're all set. Go ahead.
I missed it, so that's okay. As I will continue, I guess. So that's what I wanted to know, if we're going to be comparing the two. Law enforcement is different. Correctional officers don't have a polygraph, and neither do they have a psychological, which many law enforcement officers, and I know my chief does, have a psychological. So, Mr. Desjardins, if you wish to comment on anything you've heard so far.
No, again, thank you for letting me pop in for a minute. I'm excited to work with the senator and the representative on these, on perhaps coming up with a compromise bill that fits the needs. Clearly, there's some issues around polygraphs and how those are shared amongst agencies, and clearly would love to see that cleared up, and happy to participate, Senator, and look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Senator Serway.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Director, had a conversation with Commissioner Liberty this morning, and he had concerns about the polygraphic corrections because Cumberland is right now very short-staffed because they're the only county right now that does polygraph. And he said, in fact, they're trying to get prisoners to the state because they're so short-staffed. So if you could have a conversation with the commissioner before you make a decision on what to do, that would be great. Thank you.
Very good. Representative Costain.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to clarify, I just got a message from Sheriff Morton. Several counties do polygraph corrections. Thank you.
Okay. Doesn't apply to state, but that's all I'm doing is bringing that up for further discussion. Anyone else have any comment to make? Representative Pickett.
Yes, first thing I have is a question is, I take it that Representative Corey is not here in the meeting.
Yeah, something in the chat.
So if he's not here, we have Senator Merriman, obviously. I think we've come to the conclusion that these bills are not ready to be worked. And if we want to come up to any kind of a successful conclusion to this and be able to pass something out, I think we're going to have that conversation. So at this time, Senator Merriman's here, Director, it's been a long day. The director's here, and we'll get the message to Representative Corey, but we really need to get to this because we've got a lot of bills we're going to be moving, and everybody's committees are getting busier and busier and busier. And Senator Merriman, Representative Corey is going to be busy. Everybody's going to be busy. Director Desjardins is going to be busy. We got to get this done. So I would like to see this conversation had and something come up and maybe give them a week to do it and see if we can get this back and get this taken care of. So with that being said, I can't make the motion, but hopefully somebody will make a tabling motion.
I see Senator Seaway.
I make a motion to table this bill, these two bills.
I'll second tabling these two bills.
Okay, I will have you show your hands, please. All those in favor of tabling both 539 and 573. Thank you. The sooner the better. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll be in touch.
Thank you. So this concludes, I believe, okay, May 5th, and we will meet again tomorrow with 12 work sessions. So it behooves all of you to be ready. I will tell you that, and you can have total respect for our policy analyst. She will be unable to provide us with what we're so used to, but for information. But so please, there are some that you might have a report, but many you won't at this point. Representative Pluker.
I just wanted to be clear. Thank you, Madam Chair. 1446, we are going to work tomorrow, and then it's also on the calendar for next week. Is that true?
1446, an act to aid municipalities. Yes.
My bill. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay. There was some confusion around when the work sections were happening, but I will be ready.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them tomorrow. So
what we'll do, Madam Chair, if I may, we put everything that we've done so far on work sessions for tomorrow. Some bills that were presented to us, we haven't requested more information. Let's see if we can move them along. If people feel like we can't move them along, we won't work them and we'll do them next Tuesday. So everyone be ready to let us know, I really need more time on this. So Representative Pluker, I know you're going to work with some folks on that bill. We don't need to work that tomorrow, right? We'll do it on Tuesday. We don't want people to feel like you got to be up till midnight tonight making calls. But if we can move some along, let's do that tomorrow.
Great, thank you.
Okay, yeah, I totally agree. All right, if there's nothing else, have the rest of the day, let it all be pleasant for all of us, and good day, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.